Chapter 1331. 1331 Above the fifth level of the void severing stage. 111 In the sky above the island, within a radius of 10 kilometers, a gray energy that covered an area of 2 kilometers pushed forward horizontally. This gray energy was like the long river of history, destroying everything in front of it. The first to bear the brunt was Sect Master Han's own. In this long river of history, his body quickly lost its vitality. His corpse floated unconsciously in the long river. The power of the gray river rushed towards Bing Hanzi. At this moment, Bing Hanzi's body was covered in 10-meter-tall ice armor. Seeing the Sect Master of Frost Sect's vitality instantly disappear in the long river, his eyes were filled with a solemn expression. Crack, crack, crack! Ice armor god! With a light shout, the ice armor on Bing Hanzi's body enlarged once more, and his Dharma idol was unleashed. Layers of dazzling blue ice armor covered the ice armor god, and it was 30 meters long. Standing in the center, Bing Hanzi waved his skinny arm, and the ice armor god outside did the same thing, facing the gray river of annihilation. Crack! 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 A trembling sound was heard continuously. The grayish energy quickly washed away the god of ice armor on his body. My god, that is... What kind of creature is that? This? Nameless sword demon? Wan Xian? A terrifying creature? Isn't that the terrifying creature in the main hall? At that time, this terrifying creature swallowed the demon-tailed viper at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage. My god, this creature is actually Wang Xian. The sect leader of the Frost Sect was killed in an instant. He fought against the founder of the Frost Sect, Bing Hanzi, who was at level 5 of the void interpretation stage. What is his identity? A proud son of heaven. A supreme son of heaven. The nameless sword demon. The terrifying creature in the main hall. One by one, the names that everyone looked forward to and even feared were all gathered on one person. Looking at the 50-meter-tall creature, everyone was shocked. The appearance of Frigisect, the terrifying strength of the 8th Prince, and the appearance of Bing Hanzi had already shocked everyone. Although in the end, he was suppressed by one person with multiple identities. Looking at the 50-meter-tall creature and the 20-meter-tall Bing Hanzi floating in the sky, everyone's emotions couldn't be any higher. They were shocked to the extreme. Now, everyone was staring at the sky silently. Long Xiaotian's mother, and even his mother's clansmen looked at Wang Xian, who was dominating the world, with excitement on their faces. This time, even if Long Xiaotian could not obtain the position of Crown Prince, no one would dare to provoke him in the Radiant Dragon Empire in the future. After all, he had such a terrifying brother. If not for the appearance of Wang Xian, with the 8th Prince's hatred towards him, Long Xiaotian would definitely not be having an easy time. The entire Hua clan would also suffer a huge blow. What? Sect Master Han Quan actually. At this moment, the 8th Prince looked up at Wang Xian in the sky in a daze. Looking at the corpse of Sect Master Han, his eyes widened and were filled with shock. A 4th-level void interpretation expert was killed in an instant just like that. His body was trembling and his eyes were slightly red. Old thing, I hope you won't run away from me. Wang Xian swayed his body and looked at Bing Hanzi, who was resisting the destructive energy of the 5 elements millstone. His dragon eyes stared at him coldly. Earlier, Bing Hanzi had arrogantly said that Wang Xian couldn't escape. Now, he would return the words. With his current strength, the 5 elements millstone, coupled with his divine dragon body, it would be easy for him to fight someone 5 levels above him. After he finished speaking, he moved his body and attacked Bing Hanzi directly. No matter what kind of creature you are, I will definitely kill you today. Bing Hanzi stood in the middle of the ice armor god. He stared at Wang Xian with an extremely cold gaze. Dharma idol, god of ice wings! Dharma idol, god of ice sword! He roared twice consecutively, and 2 wings that were 50 to 60 meters long appeared behind him. In addition, an ice sword that was 60 to 70 meters long appeared in his hand. Both the wings and the huge sword emitted a terrifying blue luster. It looked extremely terrifying. Slash! He flapped his wings slightly and his body drew a ray of blue light. In an instant, he appeared in front of Wang Xian. The huge sword that was 60 to 70 meters long slashed directly at Wang Xian's body. Dragon's tail! Wang Xian's expression didn't change. The huge dragon's tail flickered with blazing flames as it swept directly at the huge sword. Bang! The sound of metal colliding could be heard. Wang Xian's body flew backward for more than 1,000 meters. Die! The figure of Bing Hanzi, who had used 3 divine abilities consecutively, did not change at all. He flapped his wings again and appeared beside Wang Xian in a flash. He held his huge sword with both hands and slashed at Wang Xian directly. 5 Elements Millstone, the ultimate of Earth! Wang Xian looked at Bing Hanzi, who appeared beside him in an instant. His gaze focused. The 5 Elements Millstone in the sky spun and collided directly with Bing Hanzi. The 5 Elements Millstone could destroy, heal, trap, and defend. Similarly, the 5 elements could combine to bring one attribute to the extreme. The 5 elements revolved, the extreme of Earth. Boom! The 5 elements millstone, which was emitting dust aura, was like a planet as it charged straight at the Ice Sword God. A terrifying loud sound rang out and shook the entire space. This was completely a contest of strength. Boom, boom, boom! Bing Hanzi held the Ice Sword God in his hand as he attacked the 5 elements millstone. One attack after another landed on the millstone, and the 5 elements millstone was as stable as Mount Tai. Streams of air currents rushed out in all directions. Those who were weaker had already started to defend, and their faces were filled with fear as they looked up at the battle in the sky. Hiss! What a terrifying collision! Everyone stared at them vigilantly, afraid that an aftershock would land on them. With the aftershock from the battle between Wang Xian and Bing Hanzi, even an expert at the first level of the see-through realm would be able to kill him directly. Ice Wings Pierce! After slashing the 5 elements grindstone a few hundred times in a row, not only did his terrifying defense fail to send him flying, but his body was also forced to retreat under the extreme pressure of the earth. Bing Hanzi let out a loud roar. The gigantic ice-winged god aimed at the 5 elements millstone. Numerous sharp ice spikes that were 10 meters long pierced straight at it. Boom! 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 The continuous sounds of explosions rang out. The entire 5 elements millstone was trembling slowly. It's about time! Roar! Sensing Bing Hanzi's terrifying attacks, Wang Xian let out a loud roar. With a dragon's roar, the 5 elements millstone spun slowly. It became smaller and smaller until it became 2 meters in size. It entered Wang Xian's stomach directly. Kill! He let out a low roar that was filled with endless killing intent. It could be seen with the naked eye that the dragon's scales on his body and the 5 divine dragon silhouettes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were swimming back and forth. After the 5 elements millstone fused into his body, Wang Xian moved his dragon tail, which contained violent energy. He charged directly at Bing Hanzi. Chapter 1332. 1332, below the 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. Boom! 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 The dragon's tail swept across and a series of terrifying explosions erupted in the sky. Even though the dragon's tail had yet to land on Bing Hanzi's body, the explosions were already deafening. What? Sensing Wang Xian's terrifying dragon's tail, Bing Hanzi's expression changed slightly. With a wave of his arm, a long sword that was 60 to 70 meters long slashed directly at the dragon's tail. Bang, bang, bang! Obviously, the sound of breaking could be heard. Cracks appeared on the ice sword. Dragon Claw! Wang Xian did not hesitate at all. A huge dragon claw clawed towards the center of the ice armor god. At the center of the dragon claw, waves of violent energy were being destroyed and destroyed. Wang Xian, who had fused with the 5 elements, had destructive energy in his every move. The pinnacle of the 5 elements, the reversal of the 5 elements. God of Ice Wings Slash! The huge ice wings slashed directly at Wang Xian's dragon claws. Dragon breath! Wang Xian opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of lava-like flames from his mouth. This time, the lava that he spat out did not disappear immediately after it was spat out. Instead, Wang Xian was like an erupting mountain of flames. The lava surged forward continuously. Water and fire were incompatible. The impact of the lava landed on the ice wings, and the ice wings began to melt rapidly. Wang Xian's dragon claws pressed forward and grabbed the chest of the god of ice armor. Explode! Boom, boom, boom! The explosions at the starting point rang out continuously. Cracks started to appear on the 20-meter-long god of ice armor. Han Bingzi, who was standing in the middle of the ice armor god, had bulging eyes that were bloodshot. Dissolve, retreat! He shouted softly. The spot where Wang Xian attacked turned into a stream of water as he retreated rapidly. Han Bingzi is at a disadvantage. After Wang Xian merged with that terrifying millstone, his strength has increased by a lot. This is too terrifying. Is this the battle of a level 5 void interpretation expert? They are already 10,000 meters high in the sky. Below them, it still gives me a feeling that I can't breathe. Below them, everyone looked up at the battle in the sky. Their faces were all red. In the entire demi-human graveyard, everyone's gaze was focused on the sky above the island of the Light Dragon Empire. They were all in shock. Die! Wang Xian saw Bing Hanzi escaping. He swayed his huge body and rushed over without giving him any time to catch his breath. Bing Hanzi didn't die even after being trapped in the Radiant Dragon Origin Pond for more than 2,000 years. You're dreaming if you want to kill me. You're the one who's going to die. Bing Hanzi gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. He opened his mouth slightly and a blue ice ball came out from his body. The ice ball was emitting a faint white mist, and cracking sounds came from the air. An extreme cold filled an area of dozens of kilometers. Everyone below couldn't help but wrap themselves around their bodies. After the ice ball came out of Bing Hanzi's mouth, Bing Hanzi looked even thinner and weaker. His body was completely wrapped in skin, and he looked like a skeleton. His eyes were completely protruding out, making him look extremely terrifying. I knew it. As a monster that lived a few years ago, he definitely has some trump cards. The real battle has only just begun. When everyone below saw the shining ice ball, they all took a deep breath and stared at the sky without blinking. At this moment, Long Xiaoyun and Long Xiaotian were both clenching their fists. No matter who won or lost this battle, it would have a great impact on their forces in the future. Are you going all out? Wang Xian could feel the extreme cold temperature from the ice ball. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Dharma idol, surrounded by icebergs. Bing Hanzi stood in front of the ice ball. He stared at Wang Xian and roared. Surrounded by icebergs, another powerful Dharma idol. With the 3 broken Dharma idols on his body, this was his 4th Dharma idol. Crack! 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 As soon as he finished his sentence, the ice ball emitted rays of blue light. Around him, icebergs that were 1,000 meters in size appeared out of thin air. There were a total of 5 icebergs. The 5 icebergs guarded Bing Hanzi above. The ice ball bloomed and stood a few thousand meters in the sky. At this moment, Bing Hanzi was like an ice god. Haha, good, good. This will be interesting. Since that's the case, let's have the strongest collision. Wang Xian stared at Bing Hanzi, who was standing above the 5 icebergs with a fiery gaze, and laughed out loud. Aspect: 5 elemental grindstone. 5 elemental grindstone was the aspect that Wang Xian comprehended when he reached the first level of the void interpretation stage. It was also a weapon that he forged with the 5 elemental dragon pearl, the 5 elemental origin, and the immense 5 elemental energy. The moment the 5 elements grindstone Dharma idol appeared, an enormous grindstone appeared beneath Wang Xian. Wang Xian stood at the center of the grindstone within a range of 2,000 meters. Around him, 5 3 to 4 10-meter-long 5 elements divine dragons were located in 5 different directions. The divine dragons guarded him and stood on top of the grindstone. With the augmentation of the 5 elements energy, Wang Xian's strength increased explosively once again. Bing Hanzi looked at Wang Xian's Dharma idol and felt a little embarrassed. He clenched his yellowish teeth tightly. Fight! At this moment, Wang Xian was dashing on the Dharma idol of the 5 elements grinding technique. The 5 divine dragons were also dashing forward with the 5 elements grinding technique. Kill! Bing Hanzi's face revealed a ghastly expression. He clenched his teeth and roared loudly. Numerous icebergs attacked Wang Xian directly. Destroy! Wang Xian's gaze was like a torch. Roar! On the 5 elements millstone, the fire dragon leaped up directly while the other 4 dragons spun the millstone. Under the support of the other 4 dragons, the fire dragon grew larger and larger until it was over 200 meters long. Its terrifying tail swept out directly. Boom! An iceberg instantly collapsed under the fire god dragon's attack. Boom boom! Following that, the second and third icebergs also collapsed. The flames on the fire god dragon's body began to decrease. The chains pulled the fire god dragon back. After that, the earth god dragon leaped up again. Earth countered water. Boom boom! A dragon tail swept out, and 2 icebergs instantly collapsed. All the icebergs that guarded Bing Hanzi collapsed. Dharma idol, freeze the earth! Seeing that his Dharma idol was easily destroyed, Bing Hanzi's expression changed drastically. With a wave of his arm, the ice ball in front of him smashed towards the 5 elements grindstone. At the same time, the last Dharma idol was unleashed. Take it! When Wang Xian saw that the ice ball and even the air were sealed, his eyes narrowed and he let out a loud roar. His body slowly turned into a water blue color. The water dragon of the 5 elements millstone started to expand and directly swallowed the extremely cold ice ball. The entire 5 elements millstone revolved the water energy to the extreme. The water dragon wrapped the ice ball with the Dharma idol. The ice ball was directly swallowed by the water dragon and the water dragon instantly froze. The frozen ground landed on the 5 elements millstone, and the 5 elements millstone started to freeze. This is my chance! At this moment, Wang Xian looked at the lone icicle in the sky and leaped up. He opened his huge mouth and swallowed it. Chapter 1333. 1333 The 8th Prince of Must Die. Go. How is this possible? How can he still have strength? When Bing Hanzi, who was floating in the sky, saw Wang Xian charging towards him directly, a hint of fear flashed across his skinny face. He stared at Wang Xian who was flying towards him. With a wave of his hands, ice mountains of 100 meters in size smashed towards Wang Xian. Boom! 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 Wang Xian stared at Bing Hanzi with his dragon eyes. With a gentle wave of his dragon claws, the ice mountains collapsed. Oh no, run! A hint of panic appeared on his face. With a move of his body, he turned around and fled into the distance. Can you escape? Wang Xian opened his mouth and the 5 elements millstone appeared again. This was not a Dharma idol but a weapon. Boom! The 5 elements millstone flew out and attacked Bing Hanzi. It grew bigger and bigger in the air, and the destructive aura appeared once again. It was as if the long river of time could destroy everything. There's another millstone like this? Is it going to die in the end? Bing Hanzi looked at the 5 elements millstone that was attacking him from behind. His eyes were a little dim. He stared deeply at Wang Xian and slowly closed his eyes. He had lived for thousands of years and was already worth it. The only thing that made him unwilling was that he wanted to witness his young master becoming an invincible powerhouse. He wanted to witness how Han Zong stood at the peak of the flowing sea region. Now, he couldn't see it anymore. Bing Hanzi didn't struggle anymore, and closed his eyes. Wang Xian walked forward with his dragon body. With a wave of his dragon claws, he kept his corpse into his interspatial ring. The corpse of a 5th-level insightful void martial artist contained an extremely terrifying energy. Wang Xian swayed his body and looked towards the location of the Dharma idol, the 5 elements millstone. The death of Bing Hanzi did not cause the frozen land to disappear. The energy brought by the terrifying ice ball was still resisting the 5 elements millstone. Roar! Wang Xian let out a roar. Waves of dragon flames were spat out towards the location below. The ice seal melted slowly and turned into water energy. Instead, it was replenished on the body of the 5 elements millstone. The 4 divine dragons of metal, wood, fire, and earth began to revolve. Streams of energy revolved on the body of the water divine dragon that was sealed in ice. The water divine dragon slowly recovered. He opened his mouth and an extremely cold ice ball appeared in his line of sight. Ice Heart, 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. So it's the terrifying energy of the 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. Wang Xian looked at the ice ball and a hint of astonishment flashed across his eyes. Buzz! At this moment, the 5 elemental dragon ball transformed into the 5 elemental millstone flew over. The water dragon that was standing on it opened its mouth and swallowed Bing Xian directly. The other 4 divine dragons immediately helped to subdue her. TSK, not only does the 5 elemental millstone contain powerful energy, it also has its own spirituality. It can swallow energy on its own to increase its strength. Wang Xian smiled when he saw the water god dragon slowly subjugating Bing Xian. The core of the 5 elements millstone was these 5 dragon balls, and the dragon balls were Wang Xian's natal artifact. Now, after transforming into the 5 elements millstone, each of the divine dragons was born with spirituality. In the future, it could become a powerful artifact that could think. Furthermore, Wang Xian would not need to nurture them alone in the future for their improvement. With my current strength, I can kill a 5th level see-through void. Wang Xian landed in the middle of the Dharma idol's 5 elements millstone and revealed a smile on his face. With a thought, he reverted back to his human form. At the same time, the Dharma idol's 5 elements millstone dissipated little by little. The weapon of the 5 elements millstone rotated slowly and turned into a crown that landed on Wang Xian's head. The lifelike 5 elements divine dragon added a little dignity to Wang Xian. A black outfit appeared on his body, crown, and head. Why is there no movement from above? What's the situation now? Is it over? Who will win and who will lose? At the bottom, when Wang Xian's Dharma idol, which covered an area of about 2,000 meters, appeared, everyone below could not see the battle above. Only when the sounds of battle disappeared did everyone mutter. That big millstone is disappearing bit by bit. Could it be that Wang Xian has lost? That's very possible. After all, his opponent is an old monster who has lived for thousands of years. When the 5 elements millstones slowly disappeared, some people exclaimed and shouted loudly. When Long Xiaotian saw this scene, his eyes were filled with despair and his entire body was powerless. Haha, we won. That damn guy finally. Long Xiaoyan looked at the sky and saw Wang Xian's Dharma idol dissipating. He thought Bing Hanzi had won. His face was flush red as he roared in excitement. However, when he saw a black figure descending towards them, everyone was stunned. That's Wang Xian. It's Wang Xian. Where's Bing Hanzi? Where's Bing Hanzi? Could it be? Soon, everyone saw Wang Xian's figure. They widened their eyes and shouted in shock. The new generation of Peerless Heaven's favorites had won the battle between the new and old Peerless experts. As for why there was no sign of Bing Hanzi, everyone had a premonition. He had fallen. What? This is impossible! This is impossible! This is impossible! The 8th prince, Long Xiaoyan, stared at Wang Xian. He shook his head vigorously and shouted in disbelief. Behind him, the expressions of the people from the Frost sect changed drastically. A hint of fear flashed across their eyes. Haha, we won! Brother Wang Xian won! Compared to the 8th prince's despair, Long Xiaotian stared at Wang Xian with excitement. Even tears were streaming down his face. Long Xiaotian's grandfather even raised his fist in excitement. Bam! Wang Xian sat in the middle of the room. He wore a crown on his head and looked at everyone around him arrogantly. An invincible posture. This is the real invincible posture. Wang Xian can be called invincible because he is only 26 years old. To be able to defeat Bing Hanzi at this age is heaven-defying. Even in the entire supernatural continent, he is definitely an invincible powerhouse among the younger generation. This is too cool, too cool. Everyone's gaze was focused on Wang Xian. The admiration of the younger generation. The admiration of the middle-aged generation. The exclamations of the older generation. There was also a hint of reverence mixed within. All kinds of gazes landed on Wang Xian. At this moment, even in the next 100 years, Wang Xian was definitely the most dazzling existence in the Flowing Sea region. I didn't expect this brother Wang Xian to have such great strength at such a young age. I, Long Tingyang, am deeply impressed. At this moment, the voice of the king of the Radiant Dragon Empire, who was sitting in the middle of the stage, was heard. Everyone was slightly shocked and quickly turned their heads. The king of the Radiant Dragon Empire stood there and cupped his hands as he spoke to Wang Xian. He addressed him as Brother Wang Xian. He addressed Wang Xian as me. He addressed Wang Xian as Long Tingyang. At this moment, the king of the Light Dragon dynasty placed Wang Xian on the same level. Wang Xian also had the right to communicate with him on an equal level. After killing the founder of the Frost sect, Bing Hanzi, there were only a few people in the entire Luhai region who were stronger than him. There were only a few people with a higher status than him. The king of the Light Dragon dynasty was not among them. Chapter 1334. 1334. The eighth prince had to die. I am Wang Xian, Long Shudian's good friend. On the island of the Guanglong dynasty, Wang Xian heard Long Tingyang's words and cupped his hands in greeting as well. The two of them faced each other from afar and greeted each other politely. This was a simple greeting from an expert. Haha, good, good. It is really an honor for Xiaotian to be able to meet a young talent like brother Wang Xian. Long Tingyang laughed out loud as his eyes sparkled. Just now, Wang Xian was able to kill Bing Hanzi, which left him deeply shocked. He knew that it was impossible for him to kill Bing Hanzi with his strength. If the other party wanted to escape, there was no way for him to stop him. However, Wang Xian was able to kill Bing Hanzi with such ease. His strength was at the peak even among the 5th level of the see-through realm. Following that, he continued loudly. Brother Wang Xian, when you have the opportunity to come to our Guanglong Empire in the future, we will continue to hold the ceremony. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. He smiled and gestured to the white-haired elder beside him. When everyone saw the equal exchange between Wang Xian and the king of the Guanglong Empire, they sighed in their hearts. The white-haired old man nodded slowly and looked in the direction of Wang Xian. Cough, cough, the ceremony will continue. The white-haired old man coughed lightly and looked at Wang Xian. The sacrificial ceremony has ended. The selection of the crown prince will be evaluated based on the strength, influence, and battle results of all the princes. Now, the decision will be made by our judging panel. As he spoke, he pondered for a moment before looking at the second prince and the eighth prince. All the princes in the surroundings also landed on the two of them. It should be the eighth prince. There's no mistake about the eighth prince. Even if he doesn't have frigid sect, with the eighth prince's strength, he will definitely inherit the position of the crown prince. Although the second prince is the brother of Wang Xian, a top-notch powerhouse, it's still impossible for him to interfere with the position of the crown prince of the Light Dragon Empire. Everyone's gaze fell on the eighth prince once again. Although everything that happened today had shocked everyone, the selection of the prince still had to continue. The eighth prince, Long Xiaoyun, was undoubtedly at level 3 of the see-through realm. The eighth prince, Long Xiaoyun, has inherited the position of the crown prince. He has the right to inherit the throne as the first in line. The second prince, Long Xiaotian, has the right to inherit the throne as the second in line. Furthermore, he has conferred the title of the second prince as the Royal Highness of Dragon Immortal. The white-haired old man's voice rang out. As expected, the eighth prince had inherited the position of the crown prince. On the other hand, the Guanglong royal family had conferred the title of the Royal Highness of Dragon Immortal on the account of Wang Xian. This was the first time in the history of the Guanglong dynasty. Long Xiaoyun accepts the order. The second prince, Long Xiaoyun, did not look too good. He walked out slowly, bowed and replied loudly. Phew! Long Xiaotian, who was at the side, let out a sigh and walked forward as well. Long Xiaotian accepts the title. Crown Prince token, the eighth prince receives it. A smile appeared on the white-haired elder's face. The eighth prince had obtained a fortuitous encounter in the Origin Light Dragon Pool. His strength was incomparably powerful, and his future was boundless. He could even lead the Light Dragon dynasty to take a step forward. The second prince befriended a top-notch expert at the 5th level of the Profound Void tier, and it was also very beneficial to the Light Dragon dynasty. The Crown Prince token emitted a dazzling white light as it flew towards the 8th prince. At this moment, a faint smile finally appeared on Long Xiaoyun's face. Although his subordinates had died, he still had the entire Radiant Dragon Empire. He extended his hand and took the token of the Crown Prince. Wang Xian looked at the token of the Crown Prince as well as the 8th prince. A smile appeared on his face. He extended his arms slowly. Whoosh! Just as the token of the Crown Prince was about to fall into the 8th prince's hand, the token flew towards Wang Xian instantly under a powerful force. Snap! In an instant, the token was in his hand. He looked at the stunned Long Xiaoyun with a smile on his face. What? Wang Xian is going to do it! Everyone changed their expressions slightly. Looking at Wang Xian, who was holding the Crown Prince's token, their eyes sparkled. All the important ministers, generals, the white-haired elder, and the king, Long Tingyang, stood up instantly. They stared at Wang Xian with an unsightly expression. You! Long Xiaoyun widened his eyes and stared at Wang Xian with an unsightly expression. Brother Wang Xian, what are you trying to do? Long Tingyang stared at Wang Xian with a serious expression and asked with an unsightly expression. King Long Tingyang, I might have to offend you next. Wang Xian stood there and squinted his eyes slightly as he said faintly. Brother Wang Xian! Long Xiaotian was shocked when he heard Wang Xian's words. He quickly shouted. Wang Xian looked at him and said indifferently, This matter has nothing to do with Brother Long Xiaotian. As he spoke, his gaze swept across Long Xiaoyun and all the people from the Frost sect behind him. Killing intent slowly appeared in his eyes. Next, Long Xiaoyun must die and the Frost sect must be destroyed. Wang Xian stood there and uttered a few shocking words. What? Damn, Wang Xian is going to do it! He. As soon as he finished speaking, all the forces and families in the Guanlong Empire stood up and stared at Wang Xian in shock. The people who came to watch the ceremony were also dumbfounded. What was Wang Xian going to do? Was he going to make an enemy out of the Guanlong Empire? Wasn't he Long Xiutian's brother? Why? Wang Xian, you! How dare you! How dare you! Under Wang Xian's gaze, Long Xiaoyun couldn't help but take 2 steps back. His face was filled with fear. How dare you! A hint of contempt appeared on Wang Xian's face. Long Xiaoyun? You ordered the sect master of the Frost sect, Ling Bingganzi, to kill me just now. Do you really think that I'm afraid of the Frost sect? Or do you really think that I won't dare to kill you just because of the Light Dragon dynasty? Cold sect, I want to destroy you. I want to kill you. Today, even the Light Dragon dynasty can't save you. Boom. After Wang Xian finished his words, a terrifying killing intent swept towards Long Xiaoyun and everyone from the Cold sect. The killing intent was locked onto them. Everyone in the surroundings was filled with astonishment. In the territory of the Guanlong dynasty, he wanted to kill the newly appointed crown prince. This was too arrogant. Boom. On the stage, the king of the Guanlong dynasty, Long Tingyang, instantly emitted a terrifying aura. Brother Wang Xian, are you making an enemy out of the Guanlong dynasty? Long Tingyang stared at Wang Xian with an ugly expression. Haha, King Long Tingyang, your son, Long Xiaoyun, wants to kill me. Do you think that I'm someone that others want to kill? Since you can't kill me, then just wait for your death. Wang Xian laughed out loud and stared at Long Tingyang. Let me say it here today. Whoever dares to stop me will be my enemy. If your Light Dragon Dynasty wants to make a move, then today, I will make your Light Dragon Dynasty. Rivers of Blood. Chapter 1335. 1335 was a legend. If your Guanglong Dynasty wants to make a move, I will make your Guanglong Dynasty. Rivers of Blood. Cold and murderous words resounded in the sky above the island of the Guanglong Dynasty. Wang Xian stood there and stared at Long Tingyang with a cold gaze. His powerful aura and untouchable dignity made everyone's heart tremble slightly. Everyone around widened their eyes when they saw Wang Xian facing the entire Guanglong Empire in such a domineering manner. This is too fucking domineering! Some of the forces that came to observe the ceremony were all dumbfounded. Their eyes sparkled with a mystical luster. Maybe this is a powerhouse! Some of the young men looked at Wang Xian with admiration. Their eyes were filled with yearning. This was the dignity of a strong person. It must not be offended. So what if it was the Light Dragon Empire? Everyone present could see clearly that the 8th prince wanted to kill Wang Xian. Initially, everyone thought that Wang Xian might not be bothered because of the relationship between the 2nd prince and the giant Light Dragon Empire. But now, everyone was wrong. Firstly, the position of the Crown Prince was not the 2nd prince. If he killed the 2nd prince, he would have the position of the heir. Secondly, the dignity of the strong should not be violated. What was there to be afraid of in the Guanglong Empire? Looking at Wang Xian, who was standing there, everyone took a deep breath. Wang Xian's action was unexpected, but it was within reason. You! Long Tingyang looked at the powerful Wang Xian with an extremely ugly expression. He stared at Wang Xian coldly and looked at the generals and important officials around him, as well as the few elders of the judging panel. At this moment, everyone from the Light Dragon Empire had an unsightly and solemn expression. Wang Xian's strength was obvious to everyone. He had the terrifying ability to kill Bing Hanzi, especially the gigantic millstone with a radius of 2,000 meters. This made everyone's heart palpitate. The attack that was like the river of time was instantly wiped out by the sect master of the Frost sect, who was at level 4 of the see-through realm. If Wang Xian was their enemy, who else would be able to withstand it? Then, apart from the king, who else in the Light Dragon Empire could withstand it? Even if they activated the formation around them, how effective would it be? Frost sect destroy! Wang Xian didn't give them any time to hesitate. He looked at everyone from the Frost sect. His figure flashed and the crown on his head released a series of destructive attacks. The attack covered an area of 1,000 meters. Oh no, run now! 8th Prince, save us, save us! When the people from the Cold sect saw Wang Xian's attack, they widened their eyes and shouted in horror. Some of the experts wanted to escape, while others begged for mercy from the 8th Prince. At this moment, the 8th Prince's body was trembling violently. Father, save me! Long Xiaoyan pleaded for help to Long Tingyang in fear. Long Tingyang's face revealed a furious expression when he saw Wang Xian making a move. Buzz! Ah! Miserable screams rang out. Frost sect, which had more than 30 insightful void stage experts, and nearly 1,000 top-notch Frost sect disciples, were instantly annihilated by the violent force in the Five Elements River. How terrifying! For words flashed across everyone's mind. The extremely powerful Frost sect, from the founder to the sect master, and finally to all the insightful void martial artists and elite disciples, had all died. All of this was because they had offended Wang Xian. They would be annihilated as they wished, and they would do it as they said. Next, it's your turn! Wang Xian's figure flashed and appeared directly in front of the 8th Prince, Long Xiaoyan. One of his arms went straight for his neck. Father, save me! Save me! Long Xiaoyan's face was no longer as arrogant as before. His face was filled with despair as he shouted for help. With his strength, he would definitely be able to crush the heavens' favorites of his generation. However, it was a pity that he was facing Wang Xian. He had no ability to resist at all. Wang Xian, stop! Long Tingyang saw his son being grabbed by Wang Xian. His eyes were bloodshot as he moved and appeared 2,000 meters in front of Wang Xian. A dragon head staff appeared in his hand. It was the dragon head of the dragon race of the supernatural continent. A dazzling power of light gathered on his body. "I'll give you 10 seconds to consider. Let go of me!" He stared at Wang Xian and shouted. "Cough, cough, cough!" Wang Xian grabbed Long Xian's neck with one hand, causing his face to turn extremely red. He coughed with great difficulty. He slowly extended his other hand. Boom! In an instant, Wang Xian's other hand suddenly turned into 7 to 8 meters in size. His ferocious dragon claw pointed straight at Long Xinyang. "I have no enmity with your radiant dragon empire, but I have enmity with Long Xiaoyan. He must die. If you want to fight, I'll fight," he said with a domineering expression. "Explode!" Boom! "No!" Finally, he spat out a word. The palm that was holding Long Xiaoyan instantly emitted a terrifying explosion. The terrifying explosion was accompanied by a voice that was filled with regret and despair. Wang Xian stared at Long Tingyang calmly. After the surrounding explosions and screams, the entire venue fell silent. Wang Xian had killed a prince, and he was the one who was appointed as the crown prince. If Long Tingyang were to make a move, it would definitely be a great battle. However, all the karma came from Long Xiaoyan. He was showing off in front of a powerhouse at the peak. Now, even his ashes were fluttering in the wind. Everyone in the entire Guanglong dynasty fell silent. The few elders of the judging panel at the back looked at each other with helpless eyes. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen in the position of crown prince? Even an expert at level 5 of the see-through void tier had made a move. "Get lost! Get out of here!" After a period of silence for about 10 seconds, Long Tingyang's expression kept changing. He shouted at Wang Xian with a face full of killing intent. "Ha ha, see you again!" When Wang Xian heard Long Tingyang's words, he laughed out loud and retracted his long arm. A carefree expression appeared on his face as he looked at Zhang Fengying. Zhang Fengying looked at him with a smile on her face. Her figure moved and flew towards him. "I've said it before. I will help you take the position of crown prince." Wang Xian looked at Long Xiaotian. With a wave of his arm, the token of the crown prince flew towards him. Pa! Holding the crown prince's token, Long Xiaotian's face was filled with bitterness. He was really afraid that Wang Xian would fight with his father. He was really afraid that Wang Xian would become enemies with the Guanglong dynasty. If that really happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. "I'm leaving. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, I will visit the human demon graveyard again. See you in the future." Wang Xian took a glance at Long Xiaotian, and his faint voice resounded in the sky. He turned around and walked away with Zhang Fengying. Behind him, everyone from the Light Dragon dynasty and all the forces that came to watch the ceremony were filled with various expressions as they watched the disappearing figure. Fear. Admiration. Respect. Admiration. In just a short year, he had left too many legends in the tomb of the demi-humans. Chapter 1336. 1336. The Dragon Palace developed in a year. "I didn't expect you to be so strong in just a year." Zhang Fengying flew out from the island of the Light Dragon Empire. She looked at Wang Xian in astonishment and asked in astonishment. "Haha, it's all right. I didn't come out to train for a year in vain." Wang Xian laughed. He was in a good mood. The nameless sword demon, the supreme heaven's pride, the powerful creatures in the main hall, and the battle today. Zhang Fengying mumbled. She looked at Wang Xian and revealed a faint smile on her face. Each of them had glorious battle achievements, and each of them had names that made people fearful of them. In the very long period of time in the future, these names would be shrouded in the tomb of the demi-human. Be it the younger generation, the middle-aged generation, or the powerhouses who had lived for more than 1,000 years. Wang Xian, this name was a legend to them. A legend. "Let's go back." The two of them returned to their residence. Wang Xian summoned his demon soul and brought along 2 ferocious beasts of the first level of the see-through realm. He gestured to Zhang Fengying and the two of them flew towards the Dragon and Phoenix Empire. That is? That demon soul? The king beast of the demon beast clan? Is the nameless sword demon sitting on the demon scale demon beast? Who is his real identity? When Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying left the cemetery on their mounts, the surrounding people immediately saw the demon's soul surging with demon flames, along with the two figures on top. Everyone had a look of surprise on their faces. However, very soon, Wang Xian and the rest disappeared quickly. The people in the graveyard of demi-humans would soon know the name of Wang Xian. Ta 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 ta! The demon's soul galloped in the sky, bringing with it a powerful force as it flew at an unbridled speed. As a demonic beast of the second level of the see-through void tier, its speed was unquestionable. The journey would have taken more than 10 days. With the speed of the demon's soul, it would take at most 2 days to reach the Dragon and Phoenix Empire. And why is there an army below us? When they were about to reach the Dragon and Phoenix Empire, Wang Xian saw an army of more than 10,000 people galloping on the ground. There were 4 to 5 experts at the insightful void tier leading the way. Wang Xian took a glance and paid no attention to them. It was very likely that the reason why so many troops were deployed was to exterminate a certain race of demon beasts, or a group of ferocious beasts. The Dragon Phoenix Empire has changed so much in just a year. When the Dragon Phoenix Empire appeared in their line of sight, Zhang Fengying looked at the huge city in front of them with a face full of shock. Even Wang Xian's eyes were filled with astonishment. The entire city had doubled in size. It was much more majestic than the royal cities that Wang Xian had encountered along the way. The huge city stood within a radius of 100 kilometers. There were 5 towers that were 1,000 meters tall inside. There were still many buildings being built inside. The number of people in the entire Dragon and Phoenix Empire had reached at least 10 million people. It had increased by 5 to 6 times. It was unknown where Feng Wan had recruited so many people. Let's go. I'll bring you to a place. Wang Xian looked at Zhang Fengying and said to her. What place? Zhang Fengying looked at him curiously. You'll know once we get there. Wang Xian smiled, patted his demon's soul and pointed in the direction of the Dragon Palace. Roar! The demon's soul let out a low growl and flew towards the direction of the Dragon Palace. Enter the ocean! Wang Xian came to the top of the Dragon Palace and said to the demon's soul. It's the king! Bang! After entering the ocean, an extremely huge underwater dragon palace appeared in front of them. This is? Zhang Fengying opened her mouth slightly and stared at the underwater dragon palace in shock. The dragon palace covered an area of 80 kilometers. The mythical underwater dragon palace shocked her. Wang Xian revealed a proud expression. The majestic dragon palace was comparable to some of the powerful buildings in the graveyard of demi-humans. In fact, it looked even more magnificent from the bottom of the sea. Let's go in! Wang Xian's body moved. He got down from his demon soul and brought her into the dragon palace. Buzz! As soon as they stepped into the dragon palace, a strong spiritual energy rushed over. A familiar feeling spread throughout his entire body. Dragon King! Dragon King! The Yikshas who were patrolling around the palace immediately flew over when they saw Wang Xian returning. They knelt down and greeted him. All right, continue patrolling. Wang Xian waved his hand and flew towards the direction of the Dragon King's palace. The Dragon Palace was huge, but there were only about 3,000 members. It looked extremely spacious. Dragon King! When Wang Xian walked to the front of the Dragon King's palace, Ao Nu flew over quickly and greeted him respectfully. Where are Prime Minister Gui and the rest? Where are the Dragon Queen and the rest? Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and noticed that there were not many members in the dragon lair. He asked in puzzlement. Dragon King, Prime Minister Gui and the Dragon Queen have led a group of powerhouses from the Dragon Palace to the Deep-Sea Spiritual Spring. Lady Ao quickly replied. Deep-Sea Spiritual Spring? Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Dragon King, I am one of Prime Minister Gui's civil servants. I will report to you about the recent events. A civil servant from the Dragon Palace with a turtle shell on his back flew over from the Dragon Palace's Wenhua pavilion when he saw Wang Xian's arrival. He knelt on the ground respectfully. "Get up. Tell me about the development of the Dragon Palace in the past year." Wang Xian nodded and walked to the front of the dragon throne. He gestured to Zhang Fengying and asked her to sit at the side. "It's the Dragon King!" The civil official stood up respectfully. "During the month when you were away, the Dragon Palace hunted the nearby sea beasts under the leadership of Prime Minister Gui and a few leaders. They were looking for various resources. The entire sea area within a radius of 500 kilometers is completely under the control of the Dragon Palace. Leader Mu Zixin has broken through to the second level of the Void Interpretation Realm in this 1 year. Leader Ao Yao has broken through to the first level of the Void Interpretation Realm. Prime Minister Gui, Ao Qitian, Ao Jian, Ao Qi, Ao Yeka, Achi, Ao Crab, and the 9 leaders of the Flood Dragons have all broken through to the first level of the Void Interpretation Realm. In addition, among the 5 Dragon Queens and the eldest princess, one of them has broken through to the first level of the Void Interpretation Realm. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace are 100 at the half-step Void Interpretation Realm, 1200 at the 9th level of the Extraordinaire Realm, and the rest are at the 8th and 7th level of the Extraordinaire Realm. Listening to the reports from his subordinates, Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. In a year's time, not only did his strength improve tremendously, but the entire Dragon Palace was also developing rapidly. The group of leaders had already reached the first level of the See-Through Realm, while the rest were above the 7th level of the Extraordinaire Realm. This strength was considered pretty good. However, this strength was still a little too weak when compared to some empires. There was even a huge gap when compared to the Star Moon Dynasty. Of course, this was under the circumstances where Wang Xian didn't make a move. What is the Deep Sea Spiritual Spring? Why did Prime Minister Gui and the rest go there? Wang Xian asked the civil officials below with a hint of curiosity on his face. Chapter 1337. 1337 Items of the Dragon Palace. You're all dead. Go. This chapter is invalid. Because you don't have the authority to change it in time, please don't subscribe to this chapter. There will be new content tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You have to gather 1,000 words before you can publish. This chapter is invalid. Because you don't have the authority to change it in time, please don't subscribe to this chapter. There will be new content tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You need to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid. Because you do not have the authority to change it in time, please do not subscribe to this chapter. New content will be added tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You have to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. This chapter is invalid because you do not have the authority to change it in time. Please do not subscribe to this chapter. There will be new content tomorrow. I'm sorry, everyone. You have to gather 1,000 words before you can publish it. Chapter 1338. 1338 Items from the Dragon Palace. All of you must die. Dragon King, the deep-sea spiritual spring is a small spiritual vein discovered by the Dragon Palace. It is 600 kilometers away from the Dragon Palace. However, after we discovered it, the undersea demon beasts discovered it. Half a year ago, leader Aochitian was killed in a battle. It took a lot of resources to resurrect him. After that, Prime Minister Gui led all the experts of the Dragon Palace on an expedition, but they were still unable to protect the deep-sea spiritual spring. However, for the deep-sea spiritual spring, the Dragon Palace has 10% of the resources, the Sky Island Dynasty has 70%, the Electric Eel Clan has 10%, and the Harpoon Clan has 10%. Right now, Prime Minister Gui and the others are going to the deep-sea spiritual spring to take the spiritual stones that belong to us. In addition, the Sky Island Dynasty and the One Leaf Continent Dynasty are going to propose a marriage and invite the Dragon Palace. A day ago, Prime Minister Gui and the rest went there personally to handle the matters regarding the deep-sea spiritual spring and the Sky Island Dynasty. When the civil officials of the Dragon Palace heard Wang Xian's question, they immediately bowed and reported respectfully. When Wang Xian heard his words, he raised his eyebrows slightly. His eyes were sparkling. Are you saying that the deep-sea spiritual spring was discovered by the Dragon Palace first? Later, it was discovered by the other demonic beast races, the human dynasty? His eyes flickered with a cold expression as he asked indifferently. It was the Dragon King. The deep-sea spiritual spring was discovered by a strange demon. However, when we were preparing to mine it, it was discovered by the other demon beasts. Finally, it was discovered by the human dynasty. In the beginning, there was a competition. However, the human dynasty had a top-tier expert at the 4th level of the profound void tier. We couldn't defend it at all, so we only got 10%. However, even if it was 10%, it still brought a huge amount of resources to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace's civil official nodded and reported. 10%? A cold smile appeared in Wang Xian's eyes. Where is the deep-sea spiritual spring? Bring me there. He stood up slowly and ordered with a twinkle in his eyes. It's the Dragon King. I've never been there before. I'll go and call for Yiksha. The civil official nodded and walked out immediately. Soon, a member of the Hag clan arrived. Dragon King, I know the location of the deep-sea spiritual spring. I'll bring you there. The general of the Hag clan bowed respectfully and said to Wang Xian. Come, let's go. Wang Xian looked at Shang Fengying. Fengying, are you strolling around here, or are you coming with me? I'll go with you. Shang Fengying said directly. All right, let's go. Show me the direction. Wang Xian moved his body and transformed into a terrifying divine dragon that was 50 meters long. He waved his arm and Zhang Fengying landed on his body. As for Yiksha, who was at the side, he was controlled by Wang Xian's energy and was guiding the direction. He didn't dare to stand on Wang Xian's body. He wouldn't dare to do so even if he was given 10 guts. As for Zhang Fengying, Feng Luan, and the other girls, they were naturally in a special situation. Let's go. Roar. Wang Xian let out a soft roar and a dragon's roar sounded. His huge body flew deeper into the ocean. His speed was several times faster than the demon's soul. Especially in the ocean, his speed was even more terrifying. His huge body that was 50 meters long emitted a powerful dragon's might. In the surroundings, some aquatic creatures sensed Wang Xian's aura. They laid in the water from a distance of 1,000 meters and worshipped him. With Wang Xian's current speed, he only needed about 10 minutes to cover a distance of 600 kilometers. In fact, his speed was even faster than his current speed. Dragon King, it's right in front of us! At this moment, the Yiksha that was controlled by Wang Xian's energy pointed forward respectfully and said to Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian looked at a spot 3 kilometers in front of him. His body came to a stop slowly as his eyes flickered. There was a huge underwater factory in front of him. At this moment, the depth of the factory was about 20,000 to 30,000 meters. Even so, the factory that was similar to a base in front of him was very vast. A 1,000-meter-sized ship was floating in the middle of the sea. The entire ship was flashing with a blue luster and looked extremely mystical. At the bottom of the ship, demonic beasts of all shapes and sizes were scattered all around. There were the electric eel demonic beasts that were more than 10 meters long and were emitting lightning bolts. There were also the sea fork demonic beasts that were bloated and had forks on their heads and arms. Most of them were humans. Similarly, Wang Xian also saw members of the dragon clan inside. The deep-sea spiritual spring was simply a deep-sea spiritual vein. Even if it was just a small-scale deep-sea spiritual vein, it was still priceless. It was possible to collect trillions or even tens of trillions of middle-grade spiritual stones from the deep-sea spiritual spring. This was definitely a terrifying treasure trove. If the Dragon Palace could obtain all of it, it would at least increase the strength of all the members of the Dragon Palace by 1 or 2 levels. Let's go! Wang Xian's gaze swept ahead. His body moved and he reverted to his human form as he walked towards the deep-sea spiritual spring. The Yiksha immediately followed closely behind Wang Xian. Zhang Fengying followed closely behind with a curious expression. They were at the bottom of the deep sea. However, the area in front of them was emitting a white glow. That was the glow emitted by the spiritual stones. Stop! Who are you? Just when Wang Xian and the other two were about 1,000 meters away from the deep-sea spiritual spring, a cold voice was suddenly heard. Two extraordinary level 8 humans appeared in front of them and glanced at Wang Xian and the other two. "We are from the Dragon Palace. Please let us in." The Yiksha quickly stepped forward and bowed. "From the Dragon Palace?" The two middle-aged men looked at Wang Xian and Zhang Fengying. Their eyes lingered on Zhang Fengying for a few seconds. "Hee, I didn't expect there to be so many beauties in your Dragon Palace. Let's go in." A lewd look flashed across the eyes of the two middle-aged men as they said faintly, "Thank you." The Yiksha nodded and led the way for Wang Xian. Wang Xian glanced at the two middle-aged men. His eyes were filled with indifference. "Dragon King, come over here. There are 2,000 members of our Dragon Palace who dig for spiritual stones here. After that, we will distribute the spiritual stones." The Yiksha brought Wang Xian to the largest house in front of them. Wang Xian looked around. Some members of the Dragon Palace looked over when they sensed the arrival of the Dragon King. He gestured to the members of the Dragon Palace to stay still and continued to walk forward. "Ping, Heaven Island Dynasty. Isn't the distribution this time a little too low? The middle-grade spirit stones dug out this month are at least 100 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Why do we only have 5 billion here?" Just as Wang Xian approached, he heard an angry roar. The voice sounded familiar. It was obviously from Ao Qitian. "Less? How is it less? Last month, you guys also had 5 billion middle-grade spirit stones. This month, it's the same. How is it less? Haha, 5 billion. That's it. That's your share. Cut the crap. If you want it, then take it. If not, then get lost." A sinister voice and a maniacal laughter continued to come from within. "I was going to publish 5 more chapters, but after writing a few, I felt that it wasn't very well written. I even published 2 more chapters. I might as well just cancel the second chapter, and then cancel everything I wrote yesterday. I wanted to make the plot more exciting. If I wasn't satisfied with it, I would just delete it. As a result, I only published 1 chapter yesterday. I deleted the second chapter after I published it, but it took twice as much time as usual. I got up at night and wrote another chapter, and tomorrow I'll be back to normal, and I'll do everything I can to make it good. I'm sorry, everyone." Chapter 1339. 1339. The item of the 1339 Dragon Palace. You are all waiting to die. Arrogant voices came from a huge room in front one after another, causing Wang Xian to slow down his footsteps. A hint of killing intent could be seen in his eyes. "Sky Island Dynasty, don't think that just because you are in a marriage alliance with the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty, you don't put us in your eyes." A muffled voice came from inside again. The voice was also filled with anger. "I don't think much of you. If you want it, take it. If you don't want it, our Sky Island Dynasty will help you take it." A proud voice sounded. Wang Xian took a step forward and walked straight inside. He looked ahead and saw 2 old men sitting in the middle. On both sides, Ba Qi and Ao Qitian sat on the left. On the right, there was a 12-meter-long electric eel and a 3 to 4-meter-long, bloated harpoon demon beast. There were a few interspatial rings on the table. "Dragon King!" Upon seeing the 3 figures that suddenly appeared at the door, Ba Qi and Ao Qitian were slightly stunned. Their eyes were filled with excitement as they hurriedly walked over and bowed. "Yes." Wang Xian nodded his head faintly and looked at the 2 old men in the middle. "Oh? Dragon King, your name is quite big. Are you the leader of the Dragon Palace?" The 2 old men were astonished when they saw Wang Xian walk in. This was the first time they had seen the leader of the Dragon Palace in the half a year they had been in contact with the Dragon Palace. "How is it?" Wang Xian ignored the 2 old men and looked at Ba Qi and Ao Qitian indifferently. "Dragon King, our strength is still too weak." Ba Qi's eyes flickered when he heard Wang Xian's words. As an old man who had lived for more than 1,000 years, he could naturally understand Wang Xian's meaning when he saw his expression and simple question. In the entire Dragon Palace, even Prime Minister Gui was not as experienced as Ba Qi when it came to people's minds. Bachi led a group of poisonous snakes under him to specialize in developing all kinds of poisons. Wang Xian still attached great importance to this department that had yet to take shape. Poisons could be used to fight against people of a higher level. They could also kill people invisibly. It's all right. Your strength is weak. You can slowly increase it. Wang Xian shook his head slowly. This Dragon King, I'm talking to you. The two elders saw that Wang Xian was ignoring them. One of the burly elders stared at him coldly. Wang Xian turned his head and looked at the two of them. He walked to the front of the table and looked at them. How many months has it been since the deep-sea spiritual spring was taken? He looked at the two people from the Sky Island Empire calmly. You must be dumbfounded, kid. You can ask your subordinates if it has been taken for a few months. The skinny elder beside the muscular elder leaned against the chair and looked at Wang Xian coldly. Buzz. Just as the skinny elder finished his sentence, Wang Xian waved his arm and a ray of light instantly entered his body. The frail elder suddenly widened his eyes. His mouth was slightly open and he didn't move at all. What? Wang Xian suddenly made his move and instantly killed the frail elder. This caused the electric eel, the harpoon, and the burly elder to be stunned. They widened their eyes and stared at the frail elder who couldn't sense any signs of life. This was a powerhouse at level 3 of the void interpretation stage. How could this be? You! The face of the burly old man changed drastically. He stood up in horror, and a shield appeared on his left arm. A weapon that looked like a harpoon appeared in his right hand. They stared at Wang Xian in horror. How many months has it been? Wang Xian stared at the old man indifferently and asked again. Gulp! The burly old man looked at the calm Wang Xian and beads of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. 4 months. Only 4 months including this time. At the side, the two level 2 see-through electric eel and harpoon demonic beasts swayed slightly and retreated backward. Their eyes were filled with terror. They killed a level 3 see-through expert with a wave of their hands. What kind of strength was this? 4 months, 100 billion a month, 4 months, 400 billion. If the compensation is 10 times that, then it will be 4 trillion. Wang Xian mumbled. If the money is not enough, then we can only. As he spoke, his eyes flickered. When the burly elder heard Wang Xian's words, his pupils constricted slightly and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Do you guys know that our Dragon Palace discovered this place first? Suddenly, Wang Xian changed the topic. He raised his head and looked at the burly elder as he asked plainly. It's an item without an owner. Those who are capable will get it. The eyes of the burly elder flickered. However, if your Dragon Palace is powerful enough, in the future, when it comes to the distribution of the deep-sea spiritual spring, the Dragon Palace discovered a treasure, and you guys still want to share it? Are you courting death? Wang Xian's voice suddenly turned extremely cold. It's not easy to spit out 4 months' worth of spirit stones. As he spoke, he waved his arm and the energy of the 5 elements annihilation was directed towards the burly old man. You! What do we have to discuss properly? Seeing Wang Xian's attack, the burly old man's face was filled with shock. He quickly raised his shield and exclaimed. Boom! However, when the 5 elements annihilation energy landed on the shield, it immediately produced a loud explosion sound. The burly old man's face instantly revealed a look of horror. He spat out blood and widened his eyes in disbelief. He was a top-notch expert of the Heaven Island dynasty, yet he was killed so easily. This Dragon King, let's talk things over. The electric eel and the harpoon demon beast were terrified when they saw Wang Xian killing 2 third-level profound void martial stage powerhouses in 2 moves. Ba Qi Tian. Wang Xian turned around and looked at them. Dragon King, back then, Brother Ao Qitian was killed by the leader of the harpoon demon beast. The electric eel demon beast clan is also sinister and cunning. Now that you have returned, Dragon King, we can finally stop worrying. Ba Qi and Ao Qitian's eyes were filled with killing intent as they said excitedly. A few months ago, the Dragon Palace was weak. Even if they encountered a treasure land like the deep-sea spiritual spring, they would not be able to occupy it. Not only that, for some resources, they had to be suppressed by the Sky Island dynasty. They had planned to lay low for a period of time and wait for the Dragon Palace's strength to reach a certain level before fighting back. They didn't expect the Dragon King to return. Furthermore, the Dragon King's strength had reached a terrifying level. It seems that many things have happened in the year since I left. Wang Xian's eyes were extremely cold. He looked at the two demonic beasts in the room and waved his arm. No, Dragon King. If you dare to kill us all, The two demonic beasts were horrified. They turned around and fled while roaring. Bang! Bang! However, Wang Xian waved his hand gently and the two demonic beasts fell to the ground. Kill all of them except the members of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian walked out with a cold gaze. He looked at the group of humans and demonic beasts who were taking spiritual stones. Among them, there were more than 1,000 members of the Dragon Palace. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, listen up. No one is allowed to offend the items of the Dragon Palace. Those who do die. Give it to me, kill. Chapter 1340. 1,340 countries destroyed. 1. Kill! A deafening sound reverberated throughout the deep-sea spiritual spring. Dragon King, it's the Dragon King's voice! The Dragon King is here, the Dragon King is here! When Wang Xian's voice rang out, some of the members of the Dragon Palace who did not see Wang Xian's arrival shuddered. Soon after, their faces revealed an excited expression. Roar, roar, the Dragon King is here! Those who dare to offend our Dragon Palace and take over our treasured land will die! A demon monkey roared with excitement, and his face instantly revealed a violent expression. Are you motherfucking Dragon Palace crazy? Are you courting death? Hurry up and dig out the spirit stones. Motherfucker, I think you don't want to live anymore. What Dragon King? Bullshit Dragon King! Around them, the humans of the Sky Island dynasty, the aquatic electric eel demon beasts, and the harpoon demon beasts saw the roar that suddenly covered the entire area, and their faces slightly changed. When they saw the excited expressions of the members of the Dragon Palace, their faces turned black, and they immediately cursed. The Dragon Palace was the weakest among the four forces, and it was also an existence that was bullied by the other forces. Now, they actually dared to shout arrogantly, and they immediately cursed. Kill! However, in the next moment, what made the Sky Island dynasty, the electric eel demon beasts, and the harpoon demon beasts terrified was that the members of the Dragon Palace put down the mining shovels in their hands and directly attacked the three forces. Caught off guard, hundreds of humans and demon beasts were killed instantly. Die! Kill those bastards from the Dragon Palace! Some of the experts of the Sky Island dynasty roared angrily. Boom! However, at this moment, a terrifying force covered the entire deep-sea spiritual spring. What happened? Who dares to intrude our Sky Island dynasty's territory? When the terrifying force covered an area of 10 kilometers, the location in the sky. On the strange ship that was 1,000 meters in size, 3 insightful emptiness realm experts flew out directly. Behind them, there were more than 10 half-step insightful emptiness realm experts. Boom! However, just as they came out, Wang Xian, who was floating in the sky, waved his arm. A force of 5 elements annihilation swept towards them. Under the watchful eyes of the 5,000 to 6,000 people from the 3 major forces at the bottom of the sea, the experts who had just flown out died before they could even scream in pain under the terrifying energy. What? There are experts from the Dragon Palace? What is the Dragon Palace trying to do? They actually dared to make an enemy out of the 3 of us. You are courting death. When the top experts from the Sky Island Empire arrive, everyone from the Dragon Palace will die. How dare you offend your superiors? Furious voices came from the surroundings. Boom. Offend your superiors? Wang Xian floated in the air and stared at everyone from the other 3 forces below. His body trembled and rays of gray light shot downwards. All below him, humans and demonic beasts were dying. What? When Wang Xian's terrifying attack landed, all the humans and demonic beasts of the Tiandao dynasty, the Electric Eel tribe, and the Harpoon tribe were stunned. Dragon King, come back! Anyone who dares to offend us, kill them! Ao Qitian let out a loud roar. His body shook and he turned into a 15-meter-tall behemoth. In his ear, a huge ocean-pacifying needle appeared in his hand. He waved the ocean-pacifying needle, and a huge amount of energy directly attacked the three powerful human demon beasts. Kill! The other members of the Dragon Palace also shouted excitedly. The humiliation and anger that they had felt during this period of time were all vented out, and the attacks tore the enemy's bodies apart. Not good! Run! Run quickly! The human and demon beasts of the three forces saw their own experts being killed instantly, and the experts of the Dragon Palace massacred wantonly. All of them were terrified and fled in all directions. However, Ao Qitian would not let everyone off. With his monstrous demonic flames, he waved his ocean-pacifying divine needle. With the swing of his rod, even an expert at the second level of the see-through void tier would be afraid. Ba Qi, where are Prime Minister Gui and the Dragon Queen? Wang Xian was floating in the sky as he looked down and asked Ba Qi who was beside him. Reporting to the Dragon King, today is the day of the marriage between the Tiandao Kingdom and the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty. The Tiandao Dynasty invited our Dragon Palace over and asked all of our experts to celebrate. Prime Minister Gui and the Dragon Queen have already gone over, Ba Qi said to Wang Xian. The day of the marriage, the day of the wedding. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. You know the place, right? Let's go over. It's the Dragon King. Ba Qi nodded. The Sky Island Dynasty is about 400 kilometers away from here and belongs to an island dynasty. The king of this dynasty has the strength of a fourth-level void interpretation. The One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty that has the marriage with him is even stronger. There is more than one fourth-level void interpretation expert among them. Ba Qi reminded Wang Xian lightly. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and looked down. Under Ao Qitian's personal attack, only a second-level insightful void martial artist could fight against him. The rest, even if they were at the first-level insightful void martial artist, were no match for him. In the entire deep-sea spiritual spring, almost all the humans and demonic beasts from the three factions were killed. Ao Qitian, you guard this place. Ba Qi, let's go! As Wang Xian spoke, he flew directly toward the Sky Island Dynasty under Ba Qi's lead. Where are the aquatic electric eel and harpoon demonic beasts? While flying in the ocean, Wang Xian asked Ba Qi with a twinkle in his eyes. Dragon King, the marriage between the Sky Island Dynasty and the One-Leaf Continent Dynasty is very big this time. The aquatic electric eel and harpoon demonic beasts should be with the Sky Island Dynasty as well, Ba Qi replied. Oh, is that so? That's great. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Since they were all there, it would be easy to solve the problem. If he could not give him a satisfactory answer, Wang Xian would not let him know what regret was. What despair was. Whoosh! After flying for hundreds of kilometers, Wang Xian, Zhang Fengying, and Ba Qi rushed out of the sea. Dragon King, in front of us is the kingdom of the Sky Island. There are more than 30 million people on the island. The royal family of the Sky Island is the king here. An island appeared in their line of sight. The island had an area of more than 100 kilometers. It was not very big, but it was not small either. There were many trees on the island, but there were no ferocious beasts or demonic beasts on it. The cities on the island looked magnificent. Wang Xian's eyes flickered as he flew toward the center of the island. Near the center of the island, festive flowers could be seen from afar. In the sky, colorful seabirds were flying around, making the center of the island look very beautiful. In a huge palace in the center of the island, there were at least tens of thousands of people gathered at a spacious spot in front of the hall. Among them, the Prime Minister Guan Shuqing, and they gathered in one place. Chapter 1341. 1341 Destruction of the Country 2. In the huge banquet hall, a young man and a woman stood in the center in formal attire. The young man's face was full of pride, and he exuded a strong sense of confidence. His face was full of smiles. He was handsome and unrestrained, a favored son of heaven. He was the crown prince of the Sky Island dynasty, the future heir to the throne of the Sky Island dynasty. The woman beside him had exquisite looks, and her formal attire made her look very beautiful. She was the princess of the One Leaf dynasty, the daughter of the king of the One Leaf dynasty. The woman stood there with a hint of pride on her face. She slightly raised her head, proudly revealing her pure white neck. On the center stage, the king of the Sky Island dynasty sat on the throne with a smile on his face. There was another seat beside him, and an old man sat on it. The old man was a peerless expert of the One Leaf Continent dynasty, with a fourth-level profound void tier cultivation base. In order to promote the relationship between the two countries, they were engaged in a huge marriage alliance. The One Leaf Continent dynasty's king's favorite princess marrying the crown prince of the Sky Island dynasty was a very important matter for both dynasties. All the major forces of the Sky Island dynasty had arrived in the surroundings. In order to show the power of the dynasty, the Sky Island dynasty had invited all the experts of the Harpoon Demon Beast clan, the Electric Eel Demon Beast clan, and the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace and the two Demon Beast clans had to come because of the deep-sea spiritual spring. Sky Island King, your dynasty has developed so fast in the past 2 years. TSK, the three forces below all look extraordinary. On the stage in front, the old man from the One Leaf Continent dynasty glanced at the Dragon Palace and the two demonic beast races with a trace of surprise on his face. Haha, fortunately, the three forces are not our subordinate forces. They just have some contact with each other. The Sky Island King laughed heartily. Half a year ago, he suddenly found a deep-sea spiritual spring. According to his estimations, he could at least take out tens of trillion middle-grade spirit stones. This was tens of trillion, and it could allow their Sky Island dynasty's strength to receive a huge increase. This was because the Sky Island dynasty had spent a lot of money in the past half a year, causing the One Leaf Continent dynasty to enter into a marriage alliance with them. He could already see that the Sky Island dynasty would become stronger and stronger in the future. Is that so? The elder beside him revealed a smile as he looked at the scene. The Sky Flower clan sends their congratulatory gifts to congratulate Crown Prince Jiang and Princess One Leaf on their marriage in the future. Congratulations! Congratulatory voices sounded from below. The marriage between two dynasties. Even though today was only the engagement day, the customs were extremely complicated. Token exchange, gift giving, toast to guests, and so on. The engagement process was already halfway through. It was the basic etiquette for the Crown Prince and Princess One Leaf to receive gifts and toast to guests. As two large countries, all the customs were very grand. Beside the Crown Prince and Princess, there were the Crown Prince's siblings and the Princess siblings. The Crown Prince and the Princess walked over, and a few young men came to their side and toasted with them. The people of the Sky Island dynasty are really insatiable. Not only do they want to call us over, but they also want us to give them enough gifts to support them. Humph! In the seat of the Dragon Palace, a group of members of the Dragon Palace were sitting in an area. Guan Shuqing looked forward, pursed her lips, and said somewhat angrily, "We are not as strong as them. Xiao Xian has been away for a year, but he doesn't know how to come back." Humph! Ajia echoed angrily. "With our development speed, they will have to think twice before threatening us again," Sun Lingxiu said indifferently. As members of the Dragon Palace, each of them had the ability to fight above their level. The strongest person in the Dragon Palace was Mao Zixin. He had the strength of a level 2 void interpretation expert, but he was able to fight against a level 3 void interpretation expert. Sun Lingxiu had reached level 1 void interpretation, so he could also fight against a level 2 void interpretation expert. He was even stronger because of his physique. When brother comes, we'll teach them a good lesson. Xiao Yu also followed them and echoed. On the entire round table, besides Guan Shuqing and Xiao Yu, only Prime Minister Gui was serving them. Huh! At this moment, Prime Minister Gui, who was listening to the Dragon Queen's conversation with a smile on his face, moved slightly, and his eyes sparkled. Dragon Queen, Grand Princess, the Dragon King is here! A hint of excitement flashed in his eyes, and he quickly looked at the sky. Eh? The few girls were slightly taken aback. Soon after, they looked towards the sky excitedly. Buzz. In the distance, Wang Xian, Zhang Fengying, and Ba Qi appeared in a flash in the sky and arrived at the location of the people from the Dragon Palace. With his speed and concealment, the king of the Sky Island Empire and the old man from the One Leaf Mainland Empire on the stage did not sense anyone suddenly flashing over. Dragon King! Prime Minister Gui stood up immediately. The surrounding members of the Dragon Palace also wanted to kneel down. Wan Xian waved his hand and gestured for them to sit down. Brother! Xiao Xian! A few girls looked excited. Xiao Yu stood up happily. This was the longest time that Wang Xian had left them. They had not seen each other for an entire year. The girls missed him dearly. Huh! Humph! No wonder he didn't come back for a year! However, their faces turned dark when they saw Zhang Fengying beside Wang Xian. The happy expression on their faces disappeared instantly. With a snort, they sat there without moving. Hee, this must be Miss Fengying. Have a seat! Sun Lingxiu was the kind of girl who was indifferent towards the Saint Mother. She looked at Zhang Fengying with a smile and invited her. Miss Fengying, come, sit beside me. Guan Shuqing squeezed out a smile and gestured to the seat beside her. The few girls knew about Zhang Fengying. Because of Wang Xian, her entire family was wiped out. They also knew about this matter. They knew that Wang Xian had always felt extremely guilty towards her. They had no ill intentions towards Zhang Fengying. However, this did not mean that they would allow Wang Xian to continue floating like this. Zhang Fengying nodded her head faintly and sat beside Guan Shuqing. Dragon King, please take a seat. Prime Minister Gui stood up respectfully and said hurriedly. There's no need. Just let him stand by the side. Guan Shuqing glanced at Wang Xian and said faintly. There's no room for him to sit. Prime Minister Gui, you can just sit down. Ajia, Tang Yixian, and the rest looked at Prime Minister Gui and said. Prime Minister Gui revealed an embarrassed smile. He looked at Wang Xian and lowered his head without saying a word. Although the Dragon King was revered, this was after all a family matter of the Dragon King. With the attitude of the Dragon Queens, he didn't dare to say a word. Chapter 1342 1342 Destruction of the Country 3. Wang Xian stood there and touched his nose speechlessly. The corner of his mouth twitched when he saw Guan Shuqing and the other girls sitting there and eating their food angrily. He had no relationship with Zhang Fengying at the moment. Although he had decided to take care of her in his heart, there was no result yet. However, he couldn't explain it clearly even if he had a mouth. Although he was extremely powerful now, what was the use of him in front of his wives? Furthermore, it was obvious that his wives were dissatisfied with him. Perverted and mature. I've been away for quite some time this time and my cultivation base has improved a lot. Oh right, I brought some gifts for you guys this time. Wan Xian stood at the side and transformed into a dog-licking dog. He took out the hairpins and rings that he had refined. All of them were items of the second level of the see-through realm. They emitted powerful spiritual energy and were worth a lot. There were a total of 6 of them. Even Xiao Yu had prepared them. Wow, thank you, brother! Xiao Yu stood up and took them. She winked at him and sat down immediately after taking them. Wan Xian smiled and walked to Guan Shuqing and the rest. He handed them gifts one by one. After all, it was impossible for a man to not be angry when he brought a girl back a year after he left. HMPH, don't think that this little thing can bribe us. The few girls snorted softly and looked at it in their hands. Their eyes were filled with satisfaction. However, they still didn't let him sit down. Wang Xian stood behind the few girls and massaged their shoulders and backs. Women naturally had to be pampered. Everyone from the Dragon Palace, Crown Prince Jiang and Princess Yi are here to toast. Prepare the congratulatory gifts. At this moment, a voice came from the front. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked ahead. An old man from the Tiandao dynasty was hinting at them. Behind them, Crown Prince Jiang, Princess Yi, and 4 or 5 young men and women were walking over. Haha, everyone from the Dragon Palace, thank you for being able to attend my engagement banquet. The arrogant Prince Jiang held a wine glass in his hand and held Princess Yi's hand as he walked over with a loud laugh. Prince Jiang, congratulations! Prime Minister Gui stood up and picked up the wine glass with a smile on his face. He gestured to the back. Bring the congratulatory gift! A golden swordfish walked over with a gift box in his hand. Wang Xian was slightly silent when he saw this scene. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the natural law. The dragon clan had a noble bloodline. However, before they could grow up, they still had to keep a low profile and lay low. Prime Minister Gui's actions were not wrong. Hee, thank you. Princess Yi raised her wine glass indifferently and took a sip. Her gaze swept across Guan Shuqing, Sun Lingxiu, and the others. A hint of surprise flashed across her eyes. I didn't expect there to be so many beauties in the Dragon Palace. Come here, let us toast to you. Behind Crown Prince Jiang, the few princes of the Sky Island dynasty looked at Guan Shuqing and the other girls with glowing eyes. They stared at them and said fervently, Sorry, we can't handle alcohol. Prime Minister Gui, please treat us to a drink. Guan Shuqing saw the gazes of the few princes of the Sky Island dynasty. She frowned slightly and rejected them flatly. Wang Xian stood at the side. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. A congratulatory gift. The spiritual stones from the deep-sea spiritual spring. Next, Wang Xian wanted to make them spit out 10 times more. Guys, you don't have to be so rude, right? One of the princes saw that Guan Shuqing and the rest rejected him directly. His expression was a little ugly as he narrowed his eyes slightly. Ah, Tianfeng, what a beautiful hairpin and ring! At this moment, Princess Yi's gaze suddenly landed on the hairpins and rings in the hands of the girls. Her eyes were filled with love as she grabbed Prince Jiang's arm excitedly. Oh? Hairpin rings? Jiang Tianfeng's gaze landed on the hairpins and rings in Guan Shuqing and the others' hands. This beauty, can you part with your hairpin and ring and give it to me? He asked Sun Lingxiu, who was the closest to him. Gift? Sun Lingxiu's eyes flashed coldly. This is a weapon at the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage. It contains a protective formation. Prince Jiang, our Dragon Palace's gift is over there. Sun Lingxiu was a little angry. Not to mention that the hairpin and ring were expensive weapons at the 2nd level of the void interpretation stage. Just because Wang Xian gave it to her, it was impossible for her to give it to anyone else. Give it to him? What a joke! Ha! Sun Lingxiu's words made Prince Jiang's face turn slightly ugly. Tianfeng, this hairpin and ring are too beautiful. I want it! Princess One Leaf leaned on Jiang Tianfeng's body and said coquettishly. All right. Don't worry. As long as you want it, even if it's the stars in the sky, I will take it off for you. Jiang Tianfeng looked at Princess Yi with a smile, and said dotingly. After saying that, he raised his head and looked at Sun Lingxiu, Prime Minister Gui, and the others. We don't want your wedding gift. Just take the hairpin and ring as a wedding gift. Do you have any objections? He, Jiang Tianfeng, raised his head slightly as he said that. Although he was talking about a discussion, his domineering attitude seemed as if he was giving an order. Today, he was engaged to the princess of the One-Leaf Continent dynasty, and all the people who came were weaker than them. He naturally knew that the Dragon Palace was not weak, but the Sky Island dynasty did not take them seriously. As the future king of the dynasty, as long as the other party did not seek death, they would definitely not refuse. You! Jiang Tianfeng's words made Sun Xiuling frown, and her expression was a little ugly. Guan Shuqing and the other girls' expressions turned cold instantly. This is still overbearing. A congratulatory gift? Wang Xian stood at the back. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes as he stared at them indifferently. Since he had brought Zhang Fengying to make Shuqing and the other girls unhappy, Wang Xian naturally had to make his wives happy first. He was originally waiting to discuss the compensation issue after he had made his wives happy. He didn't expect the crown prince of the Sky Island dynasty to be so arrogant and overbearing. Furthermore, the looks of those princes made Wang Xian slightly unhappy. You are a servant of the Dragon Palace. You don't have the right to speak here. Shut up! When the old man of the Sky Island dynasty heard Wang Xian's slightly mocking tone, his gaze turned cold as he glared at him and berated him. The old man's words caused Prime Minister Gui and the members of the Dragon Palace behind him to turn stiff. A servant? How dare he call the Dragon King a servant? The faces of everyone in the Dragon Palace turned cold as a solemn atmosphere was formed instantly. When Wang Xian heard the old man's words, he smiled faintly instead. Indeed, he did look like a servant when he stood behind Shuqing and the rest. However, his smile turned cold slowly. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wang Xian, the master of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian stood there and spoke indifferently. Prime Minister Gui, Guan Shuqing, Xiaoyu, and the rest of the girls slowly walked to his left, right, and behind him. In the face of major events, Wang Xian was the most important. Ao Jian, Ao Qi, Ao Xia, Ao Yasha, and the rest of the members of the Dragon Palace came directly behind Wang Xian. I left the Dragon Palace for a year. I didn't expect so many things to happen in a year's time. Next, my Dragon Palace would like to talk to you about the Deep Sea Spiritual Spring and the congratulatory gifts. Chapter 1343 1343 Destruction of a Nation 4. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wang Xian, the leader of the Dragon Palace. I have been away from the Dragon Palace for a year. I didn't expect so many things to happen in a year's time. Next, I want to talk to you about the Deep Sea Spiritual Spring and the congratulatory gifts. Wang Xian stood there and glanced at the Crown Prince, Princess Yi, and the rest with a calm expression. The 500 to 600 members of the Dragon Palace stood behind Wang Xian and stared coldly at the people from the Heaven Island Empire and the One Leaf Continent Empire. What is the Dragon Palace trying to do? What are you trying to do on the day of the engagement between the Crown Prince and the Princess? Are you looking for death? Scram back to your seats. The old man at the side saw that everyone from the Dragon Palace had stood up and stood behind Wang Xian. When he heard his words, his expression changed slightly, and he shouted with a cold gaze. What's wrong? What happened over there? That's the people from the Dragon Palace. What are they trying to do? As Crown Prince Jiang and Princess Yi came over to toast, many people were paying attention to this place. When they saw the situation over here, everyone looked over. Why are all the people from the Dragon Palace standing together? Are they trying to cause trouble? A bunch of damn fellows! What are they trying to do? Are they tired of living? The cold voices continued to ring out. The customers around them slowly stood up with cold expressions in their eyes. Those present were basically all the family forces in the Sky Island dynasty. An external force dared to cause trouble at the engagement ceremony between the Crown Prince and the Princess of the One Leaf Continent dynasty. This was an offense to all the forces of the Sky Island dynasty. What happened over there? On the stage in front, the old man of the One Leaf Continent dynasty looked over and frowned slightly. Nothing should happen! The king of the Sky Island dynasty raised his eyebrows, glanced over and shook his head faintly. He understood the power of the Dragon Palace. Back then, the fact that the Sky Island Empire was able to seize the Deep Sea Spiritual Spring was enough to tell that there was a huge gap between them and the Sky Island Empire. It was even worse than the other two demonic beast races. If they weren't worried that they would leak the information about the Deep Sea Spiritual Spring, the Dragon Palace wouldn't even be able to get 10% of the spiritual stones. The elder from the Yi Continent Empire nodded his head faintly. Are you courting death? Wang Xian heard the arrogant threat from the old man and revealed a smile. So, I wanted to talk to you guys properly. Since you guys insist on talking after the death of someone, then I shall fulfill your wish. As he spoke, he pointed with his arm. A ball containing the destructive aura of the 5 elements instantly attacked the old man. What? You actually dare to attack? Wan Xian didn't make his move very quickly, so everyone could see it clearly. Everyone around was slightly shocked. Even Prince Jiang and Princess Yi were also stunned. This fellow actually dared to make a move at their engagement venue? Who gave them the courage? You're courting death! The old man's expression changed slightly. He waved his arm and a scepter instantly appeared in his hand, blocking the attack in front of him. However, when the old man's shield was formed, the destructive power of the 5 elements directly landed on the shield formed by him. Bang! At the moment of contact, a terrifying explosion immediately erupted. What? The old man's expression changed instantly. His pupils constricted slightly and his face was filled with fear. Bang! The explosion did not have a large area. However, this dull explosion was something that no one had expected. Ah! At this moment, a terrified roar came from Princess One Leaf. She looked at the wine cup in her hand in horror. There was a piece of flesh there. She felt that her face was a little sticky. Flesh and blood. The old man's body completely exploded. At her engagement banquet with Crown Prince Jiang, it was filled with blood. What? Protect the Emperor! Everyone was completely stunned. The young man from the Dragon Palace suddenly attacked, and the Heavenly Island Dynasty's elder at the first rank of the insightful Void Realm whose body was directly blown to pieces. There was bloody flesh everywhere, and the tens of thousands of people around were shocked. Kill them! How dare you! How dare you! The experts of the Heavenly Island Dynasty instantly appeared in front of Crown Prince Jiang and Princess One Leaf, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. Boom! At the center of the reception, the king of the Sky Island Empire instantly stood up, his terrifying aura directly soaring into the sky. His expression was incomparably gloomy. He had just told the One Leaf Continent Empire that nothing would happen. In the end, in an instant, an expert of the Sky Island Empire was directly killed, and Princess One Leaf was even frightened. A slap to the face, a blatant slap to the face. An old man from the Yi Continent Empire standing by the side also instantly stood up, his expression slightly awkward. Elder One Leaf King, I will give you an explanation for this matter. His face was filled with dense killing intent as he spoke coldly, slowly walking down the field. With every step he took, the killing intent on his body became more serious. The elder from the One Leaf Continent Empire had a dark expression as he looked at the Sky Island King, standing on the spot and looking down at the front. Now, can we talk about the deep-sea spiritual spring and the congratulatory gifts? Wang Xian looked at the tens of thousands of people from the Sky Island Dynasty surrounding them. The dozens of insightful Emptiness Realm experts in front were staring at them with murderous intent. There was still a faint smile on their faces. Deep-sea spiritual spring? Today is Prince Jiang's big day. Trash from the Dragon Palace, I think you all want to die. Since you dared to make a move, I, the Water Electric Eel Clan, will destroy you on behalf of the Sky Island Dynasty. At this time, before the people of the Sky Island Dynasty could make a move, the leader of the Water Electric Eel Demon Beast clan on the left side of the Dragon Palace moved. He swayed his huge body and flew to the front of the Dragon Palace in an instant. He spat out a blood-red tongue. Lightning surrounded his body, and his ferocious face looked abnormally terrifying. When his strength reached a certain level, there would be people who would make a move to curry favor with him without the help of the Sky Island Dynasty. This was the case for the leader of the Electric Eel tribe. Anyone who dares to offend the Sky Island Empire will die. The lightning on its body exploded. A bolt of lightning that was 3 meters thick charged straight at Wang Xian. Since you want to die before it's your turn, I shall grant your wish. Wang Xian's eyes were extremely cold when he saw the leader of the electric eel charging at him. With a wave of his arm, a gray energy that covered an area of 1,000 meters swept over. Buzz! The lightning was covered by the gray energy and disappeared instantly. It was filled with the energy of death and destruction as it charged towards the leader of the electric water eel. Not good! The expression of the leader of the electric water eel changed drastically. He opened his ferocious mouth and bolts of lightning struck out. Every scale on his body was flashing with lightning, forming a lightning prison around him. Chapter 1344 1344 Destruction of the Country 5. In front of the palace of the Sky Island dynasty, the sudden outbreak of the battle shocked everyone. The terrifying lightning covered an area of 1,000 meters. The entire area was completely covered by the lightning. Everyone from the Sky Island dynasty quickly retreated to the surroundings. Buzz! At this moment, the gray energy released by Wang Xian directly met the lightning prison released by the leader of the electric eel. It was a terrifying energy and a violent energy. When the two types of energy collided, a scene that stunned everyone appeared. The gray energy easily engulfed the thunder hell and attacked the leader of the electric eel without slowing down. At the same time, the gray area covered the entire electric eel tribe. Oh no, no, no! What kind of energy is this? The leader of the electric water eel trembled slightly when he saw his energy being destroyed. A hint of fear appeared in his eyes. You puny electric water eel tribe are courting death! Wang Xian stood there and stared coldly at the 400 to 500 beasts of the electric water eel tribe. His body trembled. The grayish energy covered the aquatic electric eel monsters at an even more terrifying speed. What? Oh no, the leader couldn't resist it! Run! Looking at the grayish energy that was right in front of them, the leader of the aquatic electric eels shook his body in fear, wanting to escape into the distance. However, even though the leader of the aquatic electric eel was covered in lightning, his entire body was completely frozen when the grayish energy swept past him. It was as if the river of history had directly pulled him into it. The corpse of the leader of the electric eel fell to the ground, and the gray energy once again swept towards the electric eel demon beast clan. No! The electric eel demon beasts saw their leader being killed in an instant, and they let out terrified roars. Even their leader could not withstand the attack. How could they possibly withstand it? Obviously, they couldn't. Screams of terror rang out in the banquet hall where the Sky Island dynasty and the One Leaf Continent dynasty were getting married. How? How is this possible? The Water Electric Eel Demon Beast clan has close to 20 insightful Void Realm experts, and their leader is a level 3 insightful Void Realm expert. This is instant kill. His strength is comparable to our king. Since when did the Dragon Palace have such a terrifying expert? When the surrounding people saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. Prince Jiang and Princess Yi sucked in a breath of cold air, and their bodies couldn't help but take a few steps back. One move to kill an expert of their Sky Island dynasty. One move to exterminate the entire aquatic electric eel demon beast clan. How terrifying! The king of the Sky Island Empire, who was walking over with murderous intent, froze when he saw this terrifying scene. The murderous intent on his body slowly dissipated. He widened his eyes and stared at Wang Xian in shock. He knew that he couldn't destroy the entire tribe of the electric eel demon beasts with one move. Hiss, too strong! The tens of thousands of people surrounding Wang Xian and the rest couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their faces slowly turned ugly. Looking at the pile of corpses, no one from the Heaven Island Empire had expected that someone would dare to cause trouble on this day. The strength of the other party had also exceeded everyone's expectations. This master of the Dragon Palace, isn't it not a good idea to make a move at my son's engagement banquet with the One Leaf Continent Empire? Behind them, the king of the Heaven Island Empire took a deep breath. He stared at Wang Xian coldly and said with a gloomy face, The other party dared to kill them here at this moment. This meant that he was looking down on the entire Sky Island Empire. Even if the leader of the Dragon Palace was not weaker than him, he could not lose face. Furthermore, there was another powerhouse who was on the same level as him behind him. He was not afraid of 2 against 1. Even so, his tone was much weaker when faced with a powerhouse who was likely to be on the same level as him. Only those who are courting death will come out and have a conversation with us. Wan Xian looked at the king of the Sky Island Empire slowly, and revealed a faint smile on his face. Looking at Wan Xian's calm and composed appearance, the king of the Sky Island frowned slightly. People without strength would definitely not be so calm. We can have a conversation anytime. At this moment, the people from the Dragon Palace are not giving face to our Sky Island Empire. The king of the Heaven Island stared at Wan Xian coldly. The 2 of them were about 500 meters away from each other. Everyone in the surroundings watched the conversation between the 2 powerhouses. No one dared to speak. Other than their voices, there was no other noise. Even their breathing was much weaker. I wanted to wait, but your son and some people from the Heaven Island Empire are courting death. I can only not give you face. Wan Xian looked at him and replied indifferently. When the king of the Sky Island Empire heard Wan Xian's contemptuous words, his expression turned uglier and uglier. Master of the Dragon Palace, speak your mind, he said coldly with a gloomy face. If not for the powerful strength that Wan Xian had displayed, he would have already made his move. Then I shall speak my mind. Wan Xian smiled and took 2 steps forward slowly. He swept his gaze across the corpses on the ground and then looked at the sea-forked demonic beasts on their right. When the sea-forked demonic beasts saw Wan Xian's gaze, their eyes were filled with fear. Half a year ago, my Dragon Palace discovered a deep-sea spiritual spring at the bottom of the sea. After that, you guys found it and forcefully seized 70% of it. I'm here to discuss compensation. Wan Xian looked at the king of the Sky Island dynasty and said calmly. He did not hide anything about the deep-sea spiritual spring. Deep-sea spiritual spring? When Wan Xian's voice rang out, a glint flashed across the eyes of the old man from the mainland dynasty who was standing in the middle of the stage. No wonder the Sky Island dynasty suddenly took out a huge amount of spiritual stones recently. The entire dynasty's strength has been greatly enhanced. So it's the deep-sea spiritual spring, he murmured with a burning look in his eyes. The deep-sea spiritual spring was a huge fortune even if it was a small one. Compensation? Master of the Dragon Palace, spiritual artifacts and treasures. Those who are powerful will get them. You were weak in the beginning. We can redistribute the benefits in the future. The king of the Sky Island glanced at everyone in the Dragon Palace with a gloomy face. Haha, I'm not here to discuss compensation for you. I'm here to give you a choice. For the period of 4 months, you will have to pay 100 billion middle-grade spiritual stones every month. 4 months is equivalent to 400 billion middle-grade spiritual stones. Now, with 10 times the compensation, the matter of your Sky Island Empire taking out 4 trillion middle-grade spiritual stones is considered to be over. Otherwise, there is only one other option. Wan Xian stared at them and announced calmly. Chapter 1345. 1345 1345 nations destroyed 6. What? Crazy, crazy. Is he fucking crazy? He actually wants our Sky Island dynasty to compensate him with 4 trillion middle-grade spirit stones. Is he here to cause trouble? 10 times the compensation? Who does he think he is? Deep-sea spirit spring? I didn't expect the royal family to actually find a deep-sea spirit spring. No wonder our Lord City Lord's cultivation base directly broke through after entering the palace. He dares to ask for 10 times the compensation from our Sky Island Empire. Is he trying to start a war with our Sky Island Empire? In the surroundings, the expressions of the experts and forces of the Sky Island Empire instantly turned gloomy when they heard Wang Xian's words. They stared at Wang Xian with some anger. The expression of the King of Sky Island changed drastically when he heard Wang Xian's words. Killing intent slowly appeared in his eyes. Master of the Dragon Palace, you are here to cause trouble, right? His eyes were filled with a bone-chilling coldness as he stared at Wang Xian. Deep-sea spiritual spring? King of Sky Island, I didn't expect you guys to obtain a deep-sea spiritual spring. You guys are really lucky. At this moment, the old man from the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty on the stage moved and flew over. He stared at the King of Sky Island with a smile on his face. I'm just lucky. The Sky Island King's heart sank when he saw the old man staring at him with fervent eyes, and he squeezed out a smile. Haha, it's not just lucky, it's a blessing from the heavens. Sky Island King, can our two families mine the deep-sea spiritual spring in the future? With our combined strength, no one can touch it. Today, our One-Leaf Continent Dynasty and the Sky Island Dynasty are going to marry. Why don't we cooperate more deeply and get closer? The old man from the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty looked at the Sky Island King with a smile, and said with a smile. The Sky Island King looked at the old man, and his expression changed slightly. He pondered for a moment, and nodded. All right, in the future, our Sky Island Dynasty and the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty will mine the deep-sea spiritual spring together. However, some people might not agree. As he spoke, he looked at Wang Xian slowly with an extremely cold gaze. Haha, King of the Sky Island, I'm not saying this, but with our two empires working together, no one within a radius of a few thousand kilometers is our match. No one dares to touch our treasures. The elder from the One-Leaf Continent Empire said with confidence and dominance. All right. The King of the Sky Island clenched his fists slightly. His eyes shone brightly. With the appearance of Wang Xian, the spiritual stones in the deep-sea spiritual spring would definitely be redistributed in the future. Currently, they only took up 70%. If they were to form an alliance with the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty, they would lose 20% at most. Moreover, this could deepen the relationship between the two countries. Why not? As for the leader of the Dragon Palace in front of them, the King of the Sky Island would be afraid of him. However, with the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty joining forces, it was just as the old man had said. They had nothing to fear within a radius of thousands of kilometers. It seems like you guys are going to choose the second one. Wang Xian saw that the King of the Sky Island Dynasty did not put him in their eyes at all. He even reached an agreement with the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty. A faint sneer appeared on Wang Xian's face. Haha, choose. Then I will give you two choices as well. First, get out of here immediately and withdraw all your subordinates from the deep-sea spiritual spring. Second, our Sky Island Dynasty will join forces with the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty to wipe out all the forces that dare to touch the deep-sea spiritual spring. The King of Sky Island stared at Wang Xian with a strong expression as he spoke with a cold gaze. The King of Sky Island's words caused the expressions of all the harpoon demon beasts to change drastically. They looked extremely embarrassed. However, facing the alliance of the Sky Island Dynasty and the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty, they were completely helpless. HMPH, this bunch of darn fellows. They actually stained my body with blood. It's alright, it's alright. If this fellow doesn't know what's good for him, my father will teach him a lesson. Princess Yi and Prince Jiang glanced at Wang Xian and the rest with cold expressions. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. Haha, alright. I like these two choices. Coincidentally, the second choice I gave you is the same. At this moment, Wang Xian laughed out loud when he heard the King of the Sky Island's domineering words. Boom! Anyone who dares to offend the Dragon Palace shall die. I declare that the Sky Island Dynasty shall be destroyed. The One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty shall be destroyed. Kill! A voice filled with dignity and anger rang out. When the Sky Island Dynasty and the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty were about to join forces arrogantly, Wang Xian had already sentenced them to death. A terrifying aura was emitted from Wang Xian's body. The 5 elements grinding mill instantly flew out from his body. Roar! Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a dragon's roar came from his mouth. Transform into a dragon! Everything happened in an instant. Wang Xian transformed into a terrifying divine dragon that was 50 meters in size. The 5 elements millstone transformed into a huge object with a radius of 2 kilometers. A terrifying pressure was directed downwards. In an instant, the sky seemed to be taken over by Wang Xian and was under his control. Stupefied. Everyone around was stupefied, including the king of the Sky Island and the elder from the One-Leaf Mainland dynasty. Their bodies began to tremble when they felt the terrifying pressure in the sky. How is this possible? Oh my God, what kind of creature is this? How did the master of the Dragon Palace turn into such a terrifying existence? This terrifying pressure is definitely not something that a 4th-level profound void martial artist can release. Below them, everyone from the Sky Island Empire had terrified expressions on their faces. They raised their heads to look at the 50-meter-tall creature and the huge millstone that covered them, their bodies trembling. You are all guilty. Floating in the sky, looking at the terrified expressions on everyone's faces, the dragon's eyes were extremely cold. An even more terrifying pressure covered the ground below. Plop! What a terrifying pressure, I can't hold on anymore. Plop, plop, plop. With the sentence of "you're all guilty," some of the people below, whose strength had not reached the profound void tier, felt as if the sky had collapsed. They could not help but directly kneel on the ground. This is impossible. Crown Prince Jiang and Princess Yi knelt on the ground with trembling bodies. They raised their heads and looked at the creature that seemed to have descended from the legends. They were extremely shocked. 5th level of the Insightful Void tier. It is definitely 5th level of the Insightful Void tier. No. The king of the Sky Island Empire felt the terrifying power coming from Wang Xian. His face was filled with cold sweat. He looked at Wang Xian's cold dragon eyes and his heart trembled. Die. At this moment, Wang Xian waved his dragon claw in the sky and a gray dragon claw attacked the king of the Sky Island. No. Let's have a good talk. We, the Sky Island Empire, are willing to submit. Seeing the gray dragon claw, the king of the Sky Island fled into the distance with a face full of fear. He shouted in horror. Buzz! However, Wang Xian did not hold back at all. The dragon claw that contained destruction and explosion clawed at the king of the Sky Island. With his strength of the 4th level of the see-through void tier, he had no ability to resist. Chapter 1346. 1346 Destruction 7. Boom! No! An explosion sounded in front of the palace of the Sky Island dynasty. The king of the Sky Island screamed in horror. After the explosion ended, a corpse fell into a 3-meter-deep pit. It lay there quietly, not moving at all. Everyone looked at the corpse. The screams from earlier echoed in their minds. The king was dead. Their king was dead. He was killed in one move. Looking at Wang Xian, who was floating in the air hundreds of meters above them, he looked down at them like a king. Everyone had a feeling of insignificance. From today onwards, there will be no more Sky Island Empire. Wang Xian stared at the ground below. The 5 elements millstone started to spin slowly, and beams of terrifying light shot downwards. Boom! 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 No, don't kill us. Our Sky Island Empire is willing to submit. Master of the Dragon Palace, we were wrong. Don't attack! It has nothing to do with us. It's the decision of the royal family of the Sky Island Empire. It has nothing to do with us. When everyone felt that Wang Xian's attack was about to land, the tens of thousands of people below had completely collapsed. They were all powerful factions in the Sky Island Empire. However, when they saw their king being killed in an instant, they were all extremely terrified. The other party had announced that he wanted to destroy the Sky Island Empire. With his terrifying strength, it was a piece of cake. Terrified pleas for mercy came from below. Wang Xian's eyes did not have the slightest fluctuation. War was cruel. The strong preyed on the weak. Just as the king of the Sky Island Empire and the elder of the One Leaf Continent Empire had said, if they worked together, any force that dared to lay their hands on the deep-sea spiritual spring would be annihilated. Wang Xian did not show any mercy either. If he was not strong, then he would be the one to die. Boom! A wave of attacks landed and thousands of people died instantly. They were completely powerless to resist. Master of the Dragon Palace, let's talk this out. Our One Leaf Continent Empire is willing to withdraw from the competition for the deep-sea spiritual spring. We will definitely not participate in it. Please don't kill us. The old man from the One Leaf Continent Empire shouted loudly as he looked at Wang Xian, who was as mighty as a god. His face was filled with despair. He was terrified, trembling, and in despair. He would never have thought that there was a terrifying existence at the 5th level of the see-through void tier in this region. 5th level of the see-through void tier. This was the 5th level of the see-through void tier. After I destroy the Heaven Island Empire, I will go and destroy your One Leaf Continent Empire, Wang Xian said with a cold look in his eyes. He would have to pay a heavy price for all his offenses. No, no! The old man's eyes were filled with fear. He roared and stared at Wang Xian, wanting to beg for mercy. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, listen up. Destroy the Heaven Island dynasty. If they dare to take over our resources, they will compensate us with the entire dynasty. Wang Xian shouted softly and ordered the members of the Dragon Palace. It's the Dragon King. Anyone who dares to offend us will die. The members of the Dragon Palace looked at their invincible Dragon King with excitement on their faces as they roared loudly. Attack! Even Prime Minister Gui roared loudly with a face full of emotions. The Dragon Palace had been enduring for a very long time over the past few months. Initially, they were prepared to fight back when the experts of the Dragon Palace achieved a breakthrough. Now that the Dragon King had returned, he had invincible power. Destroy the Sky Island dynasty! The members of the Dragon Palace roared and gave off violent auras. Bring them here! Prime Minister Gui stared coldly at Prince Jiang, Princess Yi, and the princes behind them. Then, he ordered the members of the Dragon Palace behind him. Yes, Prime Minister Gui. The dozen or so golden swordfish moved and stared at Crown Prince Jiang, Princess Yi, and the other princes of the Sky Island dynasty with murderous intent. They moved and attacked with their swords. Oh no, run! Run, run! At this moment, Crown Prince Jiang, Princess Yi, and the other princes and princesses beside them were no longer as high and mighty as before. They were no longer as arrogant and despotic as before. Great-grandfather, save me, save me! Princess One Leaf looked at the golden swordfish that was attacking them, and yelled at the old man beside her in fear. The old man from the One Leaf Continent dynasty turned his head and looked over with an ugly expression. He opened his mouth. Pay for your ignorance! At this moment, the voice of judgment came from the sky. The old man's body trembled and his eyes were filled with despair. Today was the day of the marriage between the two countries. It was a joyous day. Especially after learning about the deep-sea spiritual spring, his heart was filled with excitement. This was an opportunity. If he seized this opportunity, he would be able to bring a huge amount of resources to the One Leaf Continent dynasty. However, what he didn't expect was that what he brought wasn't an opportunity, but destruction. Wang. A terrifying energy swept over. He could sense that all the Void Interpretation Realm experts from the Sky Island Empire had died under this attack. They didn't have the ability to resist at all. They didn't have the ability to resist at all. The Lord of the Dragon Palace in the sky didn't hold back either. Boom! 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 He could feel the terrifying energy destroying his body. He widened his eyes and wanted to resist. However, that chaotic energy was filled with destruction. Is a powerhouse at level 5 of the see-through realm really that strong? He widened his eyes and stared at Wang Xian's huge body. No, great-grandpa, great-grandpa! At the side, when Princess Yi saw her great-grandpa, a powerhouse at level 4 of the see-through realm, being killed, she shouted in horror. Pun! Pun, pun, pun! At this moment, a bone-piercing sword light landed on their bodies. Princess One Leaf, Crown Prince Jiang, and 4 or 5 other princes were knocked down by the powerful force. They raised their heads in fear and looked at the 7 or 8 figures in front of them. 7 girls, 1 Prime Minister Turtle with a turtle shell. Offending the Dragon Empress, do you think your status is very honorable? Prime Minister Gui stared coldly at the One-Leaf Princess, Prince Jiang, and the other princes. We were wrong! We were wrong! Please let us go! Please! At this moment, Prince Jiang and the others looked at all of them in fear and shouted in fear. How can you offend the Dragon Queen? Cut her into pieces! Prime Minister Gui judged harshly. The Dragon King didn't need to deal with matters that offended the Dragon Queen. As the head butler of the Dragon Palace, he would punish this group of damnable things ruthlessly. Prime Minister Gui's words caused Prince Jiang, Princess Ye, and the other princes' faces to be filled with fear. Especially those princes who were staring at Guan Shuqing fervently, and Princess Ye who wanted hairpins and rings, their bodies trembled violently. If can regret, they absolutely dare not be so insolent. Chapter 1347. 1347 was finished. All. Kill me, kill me! Please don't kill me, spare my life! In the palace of the Sky Island dynasty, screams could be heard. Desperate screams and terrified pleas for mercy. Prince Jiang, Princess One Leaf, and the other princes begged for mercy in fear. Prime Minister Gui didn't hesitate at all. As the general manager of a force that wanted to dominate the universe, he had no mercy. There were only enemies and his own people. Crown Prince Jiang, Princess Yi, and the other princes were bound to be cruelly punished for their rudeness to the Dragon Queen. Streaks of sword light landed on their bodies, making them truly experience the pain of being cut into 1,000 pieces. Give them a taste of pain! Sun Linxiu looked at the despairing pain and misery of the group and turned her face to the side. It's the Dragon Queen! The golden swordfish immediately waved their swords and cut them off. Leader Muzison, lead the Heavenly Aero Division to sweep the other cities of the Sky Island dynasty. Bring all the valuable things here. Kill anyone who dares to resist. Leader Aojian, lead the golden swordfish to contact the strange demons hiding around the Sky Island dynasty. Follow Leader Muzison and sweep the entire Sky Island dynasty. Prime Minister Gui stood there and ordered the members of the Dragon Palace one by one as he watched the top experts of the Sky Island dynasty being killed by the Dragon King. The Dragon Palace combat divisions immediately attacked the Sky Island dynasty. Back then, the Sky Island dynasty relied on its powerful strength to suppress the Dragon Palace and seize the deep-sea spiritual spring. Now that the Dragon Palace was powerful, it could return the favor tenfold. As a dynasty, it possessed a huge amount of wealth. They would destroy all the powerhouses of the Sky Island dynasty and seize the wealth of the entire dynasty. Disciples of the Heaven's Eye Arrow Division, follow me! Golden Swordfish Tribe, follow me! The leaders of the Dragon Palace led their clansmen and subordinates and spread out in all directions. Wan Xian floated in the sky and watched the operation of the entire Dragon Palace quietly. Today, it could be considered a large-scale battle. Although it was all dependent on his invincible forces, it was still a battle for the entire Dragon Palace. For such a race battle, the battle between the countries was just the beginning. In the future, it would be the real battle. Wan Xian's figure moved and transformed into a human form. His gaze retreated downwards. At the beginning, there were still soldiers who rushed over to protect the emperor. However, as time passed, some of the soldiers and maids in the palace had already vaguely guessed what was happening here. One by one, they fled frantically outside. The members of the Dragon Palace did not kill these small figures. Instead, they entered the palaces of the dynasty and began to search for treasures. A dynasty, and its influence was not weaker than the Star Moon dynasty. The treasures in its treasury were definitely worth a lot. Plunder all the treasures in the palace of the Sky Island dynasty. The rest of the members of the Wang Immortal Dragon Palace ordered. Yes. Without him saying anything, the members of the Dragon Palace started to move. Wan Xian landed on the ground and looked at the few girls with a smile on his face. He raised his head slightly. It seems like your strength has improved a lot in the past year. Guan Shuqing and the other girls looked at the arrogant Wang Xian and walked over with smiles on their faces. Hee hee, it's alright. It's just the 5th level of the void interpretation stage, Wan Xian said faintly. Let's see if you can get it. The girls rolled their eyes at him. However, they were very happy that Wang Xian could possess such great strength. After we destroy the Heaven Island Empire this time, we will be able to obtain a huge amount of resources. Your strength will also be greatly enhanced, Wang Xian said to them with a smile on his face. It's fortunate that you're here, little Xian. Otherwise, those arrogant fellows from the Sky Island Empire would have to bully us for a long time. A few girls followed by his side with smiles on their faces. Prime Minister Gui, after cleaning up the Sky Island Empire, we will head to the One Leaf Mainland Empire and destroy them in one go. Wan Xian looked at Prime Minister Gui and said faintly, Dragon King, the One Leaf Mainland dynasty belongs to the Island dynasty as well. However, it is divided into more than 10 islands. Its strength is about double that of the Sky Island dynasty. If we head over now, we can only rely on your invincible power to wipe them out. However, this will cause the other cities to flee when they receive the news. We might as well absorb all the resources of the Sky Island dynasty first. Then, we can get ready to wipe them out in one go. Prime Minister Gui bent his body and suggested to Wang Xian. Also, this way, we can train our Dragon Palace for a real battle. At that time, even without your help, we will be able to destroy the One Leaf Mainland Kingdom. Alright, we will do as you say. Wan Xian nodded slightly when he heard what Prime Minister Gui said. By destroying the Heaven Island Kingdom, just the corpses of these experts would be able to raise the strength of the entire Dragon Palace by 1 level. By then, Mao Zedong would be able to fight against experts at level 4 of the Void Interpretation Realm. Wan Xian wouldn't need to do anything in the battle to destroy the entire Dragon Palace. It's the Dragon King. I will send the strange demon clan to infiltrate the One Leaf Mainland dynasty in advance and search for information about them. When the time comes, we will take action and wipe them out in one go, Prime Minister Jiui said with a cold gaze. Any force that offended the Dragon Palace would have to pay a heavy price. Wan Xian nodded his head slowly. With a move, he flew into the sky and looked around. As far as his eyes could see, the leaders of the combat divisions were leading their subordinates as they flew toward the cities. Although there were not many of them, they exuded an overwhelming battle intent. After today's battle, the Dragon Palace would rise up completely and stand tall on the Transcendence continent. Before long, the entire Transcendental continent will be ruled by the Dragon Palace. There is only one Dragon Clan in this world, and that is the Divine Dragon Clan. Wan Xian's eyes shone with a blinding light as he looked down at the Sky Island dynasty quietly. This was the dynasty that he had conquered, and it was also the first dynasty that he had conquered. At the bottom, Prime Minister Gui and a group of girls entered the treasury of the Sky Island dynasty and took in all the accumulated wealth of the 1,000 years of the Sky Island dynasty. 3 hours later, Ao Jian, Ao Yao, Ao Yiksha, and Ba Qi returned from their surroundings. Reporting to Dragon King, the 15 cities of the Heaven Island dynasty have been completely destroyed. All the treasures have been taken. All those who resist have been killed. Ba Qi bowed and reported to Wang Xian. Reporting to Dragon King, the entire palace has been cleaned up. Prime Minister Gui and the rest walked out from the various palaces in the palace and said excitedly, "Let's return to the Dragon Palace." Wang Xian smiled. "Yes." Prime Minister Jiui nodded and shouted, "All members of the Dragon Palace, return to the Dragon Palace." Roar! Roar! Excited roars were heard. All the members of the Dragon Palace flew into the sky and followed Wang Xian towards the Dragon Palace. Heaven Island dynasty was destroyed. Chapter 1348. 1348. The strength of the 1348 Dragon Palace had increased tremendously. In the sky, Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, and the other girls were flying at the front. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace stayed at the back and flew above the vast ocean. Pun! The group of people moved and dived into the water, flying towards the bottom of the ocean. Dragon King, the Dragon Palace is located near the sea. As the number of people from the Dragon Phoenix dynasty increases, we often have to avoid the discovery of humans. Should we move the Dragon Palace to the side of the deep-sea spiritual spring? The group of people soon arrived at the location of the deep-sea spiritual spring and met up with the other members of the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui, who was at the side, asked Wang Xian. Yes, it's time to move. It's no longer suitable to be placed near the sea. Wang Xian nodded his head. The Dragon Palace was no longer suitable to be placed near the sea for development. It was completely lacking in resources. At that time, it was because the Dragon Palace was too weak and had no choice but to be placed near the sea. Now, even in the flowing sea region, the Dragon Palace's strength was not considered weak. It was almost comparable to a small dynasty. After absorbing all the resources from the Sky Island dynasty, the Dragon Palace's strength would be greatly enhanced. Leaders, 9 flood dragons, follow me back and move the Dragon Palace here. Xu Qing, Ling Xiu, wait here for a while. Wang Xian said to them and transformed into his dragon form. He led Prime Minister Gui and the rest towards the Dragon Palace. With Wang Xian's full speed, he arrived at the Dragon Palace in about 10 minutes. Enter the Dragon Palace and teleport. Wang Xian floated in the sky. With a move, a terrifying force caused the entire Dragon Palace to rise. Wang Xian floated in the sky above the Dragon Palace. With a focused gaze, he immediately activated the ability of a level 3 Dragon Palace. Teleportation. Teleportation could be performed within a 500-kilometer radius of the sea pacifying needle in the Dragon Palace. When Wang Xian activated the teleportation ability of the Dragon Palace, the entire Dragon Palace was shrouded in azure seawater. A whirlpool slowly formed. It was as if a black hole had appeared in the sky above the Dragon Palace. Buzz! In an instant, the Dragon Palace appeared at the limit of teleportation. It was only about 100 kilometers away from the deep-sea spiritual spring. Prime Minister Gui, guard the surroundings. Let's go! Teleportation could only be used once a month. He would have to teleport himself next. Hovering above the Dragon Palace, the 9 flood dragons, Prime Minister Gui, and the other leaders were stationed in all directions to prevent the demon beasts and fierce beasts from coming to disturb them. This place was basically close to the center of the flowing sea. If one wanted to step into a wider area, they had to go to a wider area. The vast sea was also the ocean of the vast area. The Dragon Palace can actually migrate. In less than 5 minutes, Zhang Fengying looked at the huge object flying over with a shocked face. It was like being on land and seeing a city that could fly. Shaoxian has obtained a heaven-defying inheritance. This Dragon Palace has many uses. Let us show you around later. Sun Lingxiu looked at Zhang Fengying with a smile and said, Thank you. Zhang Fengying looked at the more beautiful girls beside her and nodded with a smile. Although the girls were slightly displeased with the sudden appearance of another girl, they had no choice. The way of the king did not only have the world, but also beautiful girls. All they could do was to join hands and forbid the female fairies from approaching. However, they knew about Zhang Fengying's special situation. Boom! The Dragon Palace landed slowly and Wang Xian was suspended in the air. Prime Minister Gui, bring all the spiritual stones and the metal materials of the void interpretation level over. Wang Xian stared at the Dragon Palace and said with a twinkle in his eyes, It's the Dragon King! Prime Minister Gui nodded his head and flew over immediately with his interspatial rings. He looked at Wang Xian in astonishment and said, Dragon King, you are trying to upgrade the level of the Dragon Palace. That's right, the Dragon Palace can be upgraded now. Wang Xian nodded his head and took out one resource after another. These resources were obtained by Wang Xian from the people from the Cold Sect. The rest were obtained from the Heaven Island dynasty. To upgrade the Dragon Palace, one would need about 1 trillion middle-grade spirit stones and dozens of tons of metal materials of the void interpretation level. In addition, one would also need formations of the void interpretation level. Wang Xian had all these things. Boom! When the Dragon Palace landed at the bottom of the sea, it was perfectly compatible with the surrounding environment. To upgrade the Dragon Palace, 1 trillion middle-grade spirit stones and 10 formations of the void interpretation level. Wang Xian looked at the requirements for the upgrade and took out the items from his interspatial ring. I found 10 void interpretation level formations. Do you want to merge them to upgrade the level of the Dragon Palace? I found 10 billion middle-grade spirit stones and 10 tons of void interpretation materials to upgrade the level of the Dragon King Palace. One by one, the materials were taken out and quickly absorbed by the Dragon Palace. One by one, the level of the buildings increased rapidly. Ding! All the buildings in the Dragon Palace have been upgraded to level 4. The level of the Dragon Palace has been upgraded. At this moment, at the bottom of the 30,000-meter deep sea, the 80-kilometer-wide Dragon Palace underwent another earth-shaking change. All the buildings were expanding at a terrifying speed. The ocean-pacifying needle, which was more than 500 meters tall, slowly became 1,500 meters tall. The Dragon King's palace within a 10-kilometer radius had doubled in size. The huge dragon throne had grown to about 500 meters. Every corner of the Dragon Palace was growing rapidly. Especially the spiritual energy that was gushing over like liquid. Dragon Palace, Level 4. Dragon Lord, Wang Xian, 5-elemental divine dragon of the first level of the void interpretation stage. Buildings. Dragon King's Palace, Level 4, increases the cultivation speed and recovery speed of the Dragon King by 48 times. Dragon Transformation Pool, Level 4, absorbing dragon blood can give birth to a dragon seed. Dragon Blood, 143222. Dragon Gate, Level 4, a fish can only become a dragon if it leaps through the Dragon Gate, effective against creatures below Dharma Idol. Ocean Pacifying Needle, Level 4, Pillar of the Dragon Palace, set 1,000 kilometers of the Dragon Palace to be peaceful, increase the combat strength of the members of the Dragon Palace by 400%. Dragon Cave, Level 4, with 12,000 Dragon Caves, the cultivation speed of the creatures in the Dragon Cave will be increased by 32 times. Dragon Field, Level 4, practice martial arts in the Dragon Field, increase comprehension by 16 times. Dragon Array, Level 4, Dragon Palace Array, concealment, defense, gathering of spiritual energy, teleportation, detection. Spiritual items. Ancestral Tree? Level, able to revive creatures below the longevity level. Activates spiritual intelligence of creatures. Increase the speed of fire attribute cultivators by 200%. Attached, Dragon Transformation Pool to nurture dragon species. Current dragon species: Golden Swordfish, Thunder Shrimp, Demon Monkey, Strange Demon, Light Thorn, Hydra, Dragon Turtle, Yiksha, Clam Girl, Golden Lobster. All members of the Dragon Palace, head to the Dragon Pool to increase your strength. Wang Xian's gaze was suspended above the Dragon Palace. Looking at the members of the Dragon Palace who were kneeling around him, he ordered loudly, "It's the Dragon King!" All the members of the Dragon Palace were filled with excitement. The size of a level 4 Dragon Palace had increased from 80 kilometers to about 150 kilometers. It was even larger than the Sky Island dynasty. Chapter 1349. 1349 1349. If a level 4 Dragon Palace is so terrifying, how terrifying is a level 5 Dragon Palace? The gathering of the spiritual energy of a level 4 Dragon Palace and its various powerful abilities were all doubled. The spiritual energy in the Dragon King Palace had increased from 24 times to 48 times. The entire Dragon King Palace felt large mouthfuls of spiritual energy enter their bodies after just one breath. The spiritual energy was almost as dense as liquid. The spiritual energy in the Dragon Cave had also reached 32 times. One day of cultivation for the members of the Dragon Palace was equivalent to 32 days of cultivation in the outside world. With such a terrifying increase, it wouldn't take long for each member to break through. Not to mention the Dragon Field, which had increased their comprehension by 16 times. It was easy for the members of the Dragon Palace to comprehend all kinds of supernatural powers. A level 5 Dragon Palace will turn into the country of dragons. The country of dragons will be able to float in the sky and move at will. It has many incredible abilities. Wang Xian thought of the higher level of the Dragon Palace and the higher level of cultivation. Above the void interpretation realm was the realm of longevity. The realm of longevity represented that a person had a lifespan of over 10,000 years. Longevity was also known as a demigod. At this level, a demigod needed to elevate his Dharma idol to the Dharma idol world, which was also known as the domain. For a demigod to break through to the true God level, he needed to establish the kingdom of God. When Wang Xian's strength reached the realm of longevity and the demigod level, there would be a huge transformation. That was because at that time, he would be able to use the power of the Dragon Palace to unleash the Dragon Palace's domain. When he reached a higher realm, Wang Xian would bring the country of dragon with him. Once he fought, the country of dragon would crush him directly. The confrontation between gods was the confrontation between the country of dragon. That was the true destruction of an entire world with a single strike. Splash. The dragon pool that occupied an area of 50 kilometers was about 500 meters deep. There were divine dragons coiled on the 9 gigantic dragon pillars. The dragon head spat out rich dragon blood. Wang Xian had killed over 1,000 people from the Frost sect. There were more than 30 insightful emptiness realm experts. Among them, the sect master of the Frost sect was at level 4 of the insightful emptiness realm, and Bing Hanzi was at level 5 of the insightful emptiness realm. Along with Long Xiaoyun and some other experts at level 3 of the insightful emptiness realm, their corpses could be converted into huge amounts of dragon blood. In the Sky Island Empire, more than 70 insightful emptiness realm experts had been killed. These 70 experts included the corpses of the Water Electric Eel clan and the Harpoon clan. There were over 100 corpses of insightful emptiness realm experts, as well as those above the Type 7 realm. A large amount of dragon blood flowed into the dragon pool. There were over 3,000 members in the Dragon Palace, and it was a small number. However, they could obtain more resources. The evolution of the Dragon Pool allowed over 3,000 members of the Dragon Palace to enter the Dragon Pool. Dragon King, apart from these corpses, we have also obtained a large number of spiritual herbs and medicinal pills. All the herb gardens of the Heaven Island dynasty have been moved here. I have decided to open up a herb garden in the Dragon Palace. With the spiritual energy in the Dragon Palace, the growth rate of the spiritual herbs is dozens of times faster than the outside world. There are also some other treasures that need to be disposed of and exchanged for practical resources. Prime Minister Gui brought 2 civil officials over. He held a book in his hand and introduced it to Wang Xian. Sure. You can carry out some of the plans in the Dragon Palace. It will be tough on you for the next period of time. You should also go down and raise your cultivation level. After all the members of the Dragon Palace have raised their strength, attack the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty. Wang Xian nodded and gestured at him. It's the Dragon King! Prime Minister Gui nodded and jumped into the Dragon Pool. There were now 1,200 soldiers in the Demon War Department. There were now 400 soldiers in the Thunder Department. There were now 400 soldiers in the Dragon Defense Department. There were now 250 soldiers in the Dragon Spur Department. There were now 400 soldiers in the Heavenly Eye Arrow Department. There were now 100 soldiers in the Dolphin Clan. There were 300 soldiers in the Golden Swordfish of the Dragon Guards. 9 Flood Dragons. About 100 members of the eight-headed poison-making department. The special AO crab had tens of thousands of little AO crabs in its body. And the rest of the civil officials and members of the Dragon Palace. This was the strength of all the members of the Dragon Palace. The warriors of the Dragon Palace immersed themselves in the Dragon Pond and quickly absorbed the energy in the Dragon Pond. The leaders had reached the first rank of the Insightful Emptiness Realm, and Mao Zedong had reached the second rank of the Insightful Emptiness Realm. Due to their bloodline, each of them could fight against opponents of a higher level. As long as all of them reached the first level, the Dragon Palace would have 17 experts at the second level of the see-through. They could fight against 17 experts at the third level of the see-through. Mao Zedong could fight against those at the fourth level of the see-through. In addition, there would be some who were at the half-step to the see-through realm who would advance to the see-through realm. The energy from the dragon blood alone is not enough. Wan Xian looked at the majestic dragon blood in the dragon pool below, and took out one interspatial ring after another. These interspatial rings were filled with elixirs. The elixirs obtained from robbing the entire dynasty were extremely huge. Wan Xian swallowed all the elixirs into his stomach and turned them into dragon crystals. In just half an hour, he had gained an additional 500 million dragon crystals. This was also the reason why he did not consume some spiritual herbs. 500 million dragon crystals was still a long way from the 10 billion dragon crystals that he needed to level up. However, to the members of the Dragon Palace, it was definitely a huge amount of energy. Let's raise Ao Yao's strength a little more! Wan Xian waved his arm and a majestic wave of dragon crystals poured directly into Ao Yao. Out of 500 million dragon crystals, Ao Yao had used up 300 million. However, his level was on par with Mao Zedong. After coming out of the dragon pool, he was at level 3 of the see-through realm. As a thorny dragon, he could definitely assassinate a level 5 see-through realm expert. Wan Xian shared the remaining 200 million dragon crystals with all the members of the Dragon Palace. Boom! 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 In the dragon pool, powerful energies erupted from time to time. The group of girls also entered the dragon pool to increase their strength. A day had passed. When the dragon blood in the dragon pool was depleted, the members of the Dragon Palace who had undergone a complete transformation stood at the edge of the dragon pool. Greetings, Dragon King! All the members of the Dragon Palace knelt down in unison and shouted loudly. Wan Xian swept his gaze across and revealed a satisfied expression on his face. Other than the group of leaders, there were a total of 10 newly added Insightful Emptiness Realm experts. Among them, 3 were from the Strange Demon Clan. 1 was from the Dolphin Clan and 2 were from the Golden Swordfish Clan. Currently, the weakest one was at level 8 Extraordinary. Very good. Next, you will demonstrate your strength by destroying the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty. All members of the Dragon Palace, follow me on the expedition. Wan Xian raised his head slightly and looked at all his subordinates as he shouted loudly. Understood. All the warriors of the Dragon Palace knelt on one knee and shouted loudly. They stood up immediately and stood up straight, exuding a powerful and imposing aura. Dragon Guard, stay here and patrol the surroundings of the Dragon Palace. The rest of the warriors, follow the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui roared. Roar! Roar! With 9 roars, the 9 flood dragons flew into the Dragon King's palace and pulled up the huge dragon throne. A personal expedition. This was the first battle of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 1350. 1350 1350. Roar! A furious roar sounded from the bottom of the sea. In front of the Dragon Palace, 9 flood dragons were pulling huge dragon chairs and swaying their huge bodies. Prime Minister Gui was standing on the left. The clam girl was standing on the right with a huge cattail leaf fan. Behind them, Ao Qitian, who was holding the sea-pacifying needle in his hand, was leading his clansmen. Beside him was Ao Qi, who held a thunder spear and a thunder hammer. Ao Jian, who held a golden long sword. Mao Zedong, who held a bow and arrow. Behind them were their tribesmen. These three groups were at the front, center, and left and right. And in the center of their tribesmen was a special group of tribesmen. There was a slender dolphin, and a venomous snake with a ferocious face. Tang Yixian and the other girls didn't follow them. A pink dolphin was the leader of the dolphin tribe. Ba Qi stood around the ferocious poisonous snakes. These were two special combat divisions. The strange demon tribe hid in the surrounding void. Let's go! A humanoid creature held a huge conch in his hand and blew the horn of war. Let's go! All the warriors of the Dragon Palace roared and flew forward aggressively. Their target was the One-Leaf Continent Empire. Tan! Wan Xian sat on the huge dragon throne and a series of heart-rending voices sounded around them. They were very fast. Dragon King, this is the news that the strange demons found in the One-Leaf Continent Empire yesterday. Before the battle, Prime Minister Gui had ordered the strange demon clan to find out the information. This morning, all the information was sent over. There was a simple record of the power of the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty and the power of the cities. The One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty was different from the Sky Island Dynasty on an island. The territory of the One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty was 300 kilometers wide, which was 3 times the size of the Sky Island Dynasty. It was made up of small islands that looked like leaves from the sky, so it was called the One-Leaf Dynasty. The power of the One-Leaf Dynasty was 2 to 3 times that of the Sky Island Dynasty, and there were 3 rank 4 void interpretation realms. Now that one was killed, there were 2 more. There were 9 rank 3 void interpretation realms. The remaining 20 were no match for the Dragon Palace. The palace has gathered 50% of their dynasty's forces. We can attack all the cities at the same time according to the information obtained by the strange demon, Prime Minister Gui said to Wang Xian. All right, the newly promoted Dongshu members will lead their men to attack the cities. The rest will attack their imperial cities. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. It's the Dragon King. I'll pass down the order now. Prime Minister Gui held the turtle shell and nodded his head. He then passed down the order. Whoosh! As they rushed out of the sea, a terrifying aura directly impacted the entire sky. 9 flood dragons were sprinting in front, while a group of subordinates followed behind. Everyone, hurry up! We received news from the Sky Island Empire today that the Sky Island Empire was attacked by powerful demonic beasts. Countless experts were killed and injured. Let's go over and see if we can fish in troubled waters. I really didn't expect the Sky Island dynasty to be attacked so horribly. Didn't our dynasty enter into a marriage alliance with them 2 days ago? Why are they suddenly attacked? Yeah, the Sky Island dynasty isn't weak either. What demonic beast would dare to attack them? Who cares? They're not here to attack us. Their lives have nothing to do with us. Let's see if we can make a fortune. On an island of the One-Leaf Continent Dynasty, a family flew towards the Sky Island Dynasty with shining eyes. Not long ago, they received news that the Sky Island Dynasty had suffered a terrifying attack, and all the experts had been killed. The entire country was in chaos. This surprised them, and their eyes flickered. They immediately led their family members to the Sky Island Dynasty. They could fish in troubled waters. Even if they couldn't get some treasures, they could control some beautiful women to sell them. Their family had started from selling slaves in the past. A group of more than 50 people flew out of the island with excited faces and flew forward. At the front were 3 half-step void interpretation experts. My God, look ahead, that's... Suddenly, the 3 half-step void interpretation experts in front who were conversing suddenly felt a terrifying force rushing over from the front. They looked over, their faces filled with fear. What was that? 9 enormous creatures that were 30 meters long, flapping their not-so-big wings, pulled a golden throne. That golden throne was at least a few hundred meters in size, and on it sat a human. A human sitting on such a huge throne looked a little out of place, but it didn't seem very strange. At a glance, it seemed like that human was the center. Behind the golden throne, about 3,000 creatures followed behind. They were strangely shaped and looked extremely ferocious. As they got closer, a terrifying aura charged towards them. What was even more shocking was that in the sky above the group of creatures, a terrifying dark cloud that covered an area of about 5,000 meters followed them. The dark cloud destroyed the city. They had come with ill intentions. Even if they were a few thousand meters away, they could still feel the destructive power of the other party. Return to the city, return to the city, immediately return to the city, quickly report to the city lord. The group of more than 50 people revealed a terrified expression. They opened their eyes wide and hurriedly shouted, flying toward the city on the small island. An expert is flying over. Alert, alert! They turned around and glanced at him. Seeing his terrifying speed, they shouted out in fear. The voice of a half-step void interpretation expert covered the entire small island. What is that? It's a group of powerful creatures. What are they doing here? Be careful, be alert, be alert! Dong, dong, dong! On the city wall of the island, when some soldiers saw the group of Dragon Palace coming with a terrifying pressure, they widened their eyes and shouted in fear. The sound of alert resounded throughout the island. Whoosh! An old man flew into the sky from the island lord's mansion and flew toward the north gate. When he saw 9 30-meter-long flood dragons pulling a throne and the terrifying creatures behind them, his face was filled with shock. His forehead was instantly covered in cold sweat, and he couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Oh my God! This. What faction are they from? Are they here to attack us? How terrifying! This is not something we can resist. As Wang Xian and the rest got closer, the extremely thick and heavy dark clouds arrived. The huge scales on the 9 creatures could be clearly seen. The soldiers on the city wall were trembling with fear in their eyes. Whoosh! 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 When the dark clouds covered the entire sky, a 10-meter-tall demon monkey with a level 3 ocean-pacifying needle in his hand led 300 demon monkey subordinates, and jumped down from the sky. The One-Leaf Continent's dynasty is about to be destroyed. Those who submit will live, and those who resist will die. His majestic voice covered the entire island. Meanwhile, the rest of the Dragon Palace's forces were pointing at the One-Leaf Continent's imperial city. Chapter 1351. 1351. The One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty will be destroyed. Those who submit will live, and those who resist will die. The demon monkey's roar resounded across the entire island. One-Leaf Mainland Dynasty, and the island was a city. 300 demon monkeys stood in front of the city wall. The strongest demon monkey, a rank 1 profound void tier demon monkey, was 10 meters tall. He stood in front and stared coldly at the city in front of him. Behind him, 300 demon monkeys stood behind him. Their violent auras charged forward. All of them grinned and raised their heads with ferocious expressions. In the sky, Wang Xian sat upright on the dragon throne. His gaze swept across the area below and continued to look forward. There were no fluctuations at all. 1 demon monkey at the see-through realm and 300 demon monkeys who had yet to reach the see-through realm. With such strength, it was more than enough to take down a city. With the bloodline of the divine dragon, as the number of demon combat divisions in the Dragon Palace, each demon monkey had the ability to fight above their level. Now, the weakest rank 8 transcendents in the Dragon Palace could fight above their level and could fight against rank 9 transcendents. This was equivalent to the weakest rank 9 transcendents. It was enough to take down a city. What? The One-Leaf Dynasty is going to be destroyed? Submit or die. On the city wall at the north gate of the island, the citizens of the One-Leaf Dynasty glanced at the 300 devil monkeys in front of the city in fear. Then, they looked at the sky. The group that gave off a terrifying aura flew towards the center of their dynasty. There were dark clouds in a 5-kilometer radius, and 9 terrifying creatures that were 30 meters long. There was also a young man sitting on the throne. Everything was too shocking. City Lord, are we surrendering? A middle-aged man walked to the side of the island lord in the center of the city wall. He stared at the 300 or so black and violent creatures below with a face full of fear. The old man stood there, his expression constantly changing. His gaze was fixed on the 300 demon monkeys in front of him. That demon monkey at the front is at the first level of the insightful void tier. The rest have not reached the insightful void tier. Among the group of people who had issued the alarm earlier, one of the half-step insightful void tier old men stared at the group of demon monkeys with flickering eyes. What? There's only one insightful void tier? And it's at the first level of the insightful void tier? Some of the people around were slightly stunned when they heard his words, and they asked in surprise. Yes, the treasure in my hand can detect the opponent's level. The old man looked at the stone plate in his hand, and his eyes flickered. Only one at the first level of the void interpretation, and 300 creatures that have yet to reach the void interpretation want our island to surrender? That group of people just now was very terrifying, but they only left behind this group of creatures, and they want to destroy us. On the city walls, the eyes of some experts flickered as their gazes landed on the island lord. Island lord, if we submit, the other party will definitely take all of our treasures. It's simply wishful thinking to think that they can take down our sky blue island just by relying on this group of people. That's right, the majority of their group of experts are flying towards the Imperial City, leaving behind only a few weaklings who want us to submit. They simply don't put us in their eyes. Some of the big families on the sky blue island said with cold expressions. This was their foundation. If they submitted, their family's treasures would definitely be plundered by the other party. Their 1,000-year foundation would be destroyed in an instant. How could they be willing to accept this? If it was that group of terrifying creatures from before, they would not hesitate to surrender. But just the ones in front of them. They were not convinced. They could totally defeat this group of beasts and temporarily move all the treasures of their clan to another place, waiting for the news from the Imperial City. You want to make us submit? Relying on you bunch of beasts, you're too arrogant. Do you really think that our sky blue island is so easy to break through? Do you really think that relying on an expert at the first level of the profound void tier and a group of people who have not reached the profound void tier can make us submit? What fools! What a bunch of fools! The sky blue island lord sensed that the enormous strength had completely disappeared from his sight, and he stared at the 300 demon monkeys below with an extremely cold gaze. Those who resist die. The leader of the demon monkeys slightly exerted strength in his arm and tightly held the ocean-pacifying godly needle. The level 3 Dragon Palace level ocean-pacifying godly needle could become 500 meters long and 5 to 6 meters wide. Kill! He roared, and his black hair stood up like needles. On the city wall, under everyone's gaze, the ocean-pacifying needle in demon monkey's hand grew bigger and bigger. Finally, a 500-meter-long ocean-pacifying needle appeared in front of the north gate. His 10-meter-tall body carried the ocean-pacifying needle and directly attacked the city gate in front of him. Boom! What was the concept of a 500-meter-tall ocean-pacifying needle? The city wall in front of him was close to 200 meters high. Such a city wall could be considered extremely lofty. However, in front of the 500-meter-tall ocean-pacifying needle, it was still not enough. On the city wall, under everyone's shocked gazes, the ocean-pacifying needle directly landed on the city wall. Boom! 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 It was as easy as crushing dried twigs, as easy as crushing dried twigs. The 200-meter-long city wall was like paper to the people of Sky Blue Island. Under the powerful attack of the ocean-pacifying needle, it collapsed. The first-level void interpretation formation was instantly broken. Kill! The ocean-pacifying needle landed, and the city was broken. Behind them, 300 berserk demon monkeys were emitting monstrous demonic flames. Pitch-black dragon scales slowly covered their bodies. They held metal clubs and directly attacked the destroyed city. Roar! Anyone who resists will die! The demon monkey holding the ocean-pacifying needle roared, and the ocean-pacifying needle returned to 30 meters in size. Holding such a huge club, It directly attacked the island owner in the center of the city wall. What, this? How is this possible? On the city wall of Sky Blue Island, everyone was stunned by the demon monkey's staff. The indestructible city wall and the powerful protection of the array formation were instantly forced. Looking at the 30-meter-long golden staff in the hand of the Level 1 Void Interpretation creature that carried terrifying demonic chi, everyone's hearts trembled. Damn it, I completely underestimated the strength of this creature. What kind of weapon is the metal staff in his hand? How can it become bigger and smaller? The Sky Blue Island Lord's expression changed drastically as he looked at the demon monkey that was attacking him. With a wave of his arm, a sky blue staff appeared in his hand. With a light wave of his staff, a 1,000-meter-large wave directly charged towards the demon monkey. Boom! However, the ocean-pacifying needle directly smashed towards the huge wave that was descending from the sky. The powerful water energy immediately disappeared. The ocean-pacifying needle fixed the water energy. It could be said that the ocean-pacifying needle was the nemesis of water energy. The huge ocean-pacifying needle directly smashed toward the Sky Blue Island Lord. The old man's face was filled with shock, and his eyes were filled with fear. Stomp through the city. Impudent and unruly. This rod. I'll turn you into ashes. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.